It was a little girl I only knew. What was late to me, the stories ain't true. It was ingrained every night and day. It's just a story, so I told my head. But when I met you, I just knew all those stories were about to come true. But they were reading to me every night. Oh, hoping one day that I would see that light. Right around the corner for you.
Ambient noise, yeah.
So now you're grabbing some band lab clips.
Now for me, that would also be something where I would use like volume automation and like bring that from the bottom, like bring it in and then bring it back out. Kind of.
And these are the kinds of sounds you can scratch. With this AI, like scratching it actually can be cool.
Oh, that was perfect for the interlude too.
Ended right in the right
I
spot.
didn't even notice 40. I didn't even realize the texture faded out at the interlude until it happened. I'm like, wait a minute.
Sometimes you just, it was just meant to be that way.
Oh, Glenn, good to see you again.
Good to see you. Good to see you. Another Thursday. Welcome.
And it's some summertime. Finally.
It is. And I got a little too much sun.
Officially.
Little too much sun. Sat out in a street fair. We were working a street fair and we were there at 7 in the morning. We were there until 6 at night. So a little bit too much sun, but it's okay.
Well, that's enough time to actually get too much sun.
I was trying to hide from the sun most of the day too, but it was a little bit overcast in the morning. So, seemed like it was fine and you didn't realize that you're in the sun because it's all hazy. But some of those rays get through. So PSA, wear a hat. I'm going to have to start wearing a hat for sure.
Well, I have my hair to protect me.
Yeah, no, nothing there for me. No, that's the thing. I got to figure out a good style of hat for me to wear when I'm out there.
Oh, too bad you don't have that Stetson. That's a good style.
It's a good style. I was even thinking like, one of those driving hats, like just a small, something that's got to be able to cover the ears at least, like keep the sun off the top of the ears as well as the top of the head. So, I don't want it to be a huge hat or anything, but, a baseball hat doesn't quite do it.
No, I can only wear a baseball hat backwards. I can't do the cap in front of me.
Yeah. I hear that people, people my age really look like they're trying to be a kid when they try to wear a baseball hat backwards. And it's just, it's not a good look for me.
No, I don't want to grow up.
Yeah, no. I mean, I am a Toys R Us kid, so there is that. But there is some psychology going on with, with hats as well. But there's also psychology in everything, right?
Yeah. And actually tonight we're going to be dabbling a little bit with psychology. Let's take a look, see what we've got. We're going to start with psychology. The first two videos are dealing with that obstacle a lot of us have. Even the technical guys, like us, will run into things like this. But, in general, I find a lot of people are reluctant to sometimes learn things that they need to that are technical. You know, those obstacles, they start to make excuses for why they don't have to learn. And you know, you've dealt with clients and trying to teach people how to do things on the computer, and they start to act like, oh, well, you just do it for me. I don't need to know this. I don't want to do this. I want somebody else to do it. And
Yeah.
depending on what you have to deal with, you can't have that attitude all the time.
In the earlier days of when I was doing tech support, it was a lot more of that because I did tech support for a lot of years. So in the beginning, the tech guys were very rare. It's like not everybody knew how to use a computer. So anybody who knew anything about how to use it was like a wizard, right? And as time went on, like everybody knows how to use computers because everybody grew up with computers after that. So it was,
Yeah.
one of those things where in the beginning, it was a very different thing than it was 20 years later. But in the early days, like trying to teach people things, I'm trying to teach people to fish instead of giving people a fish, because if I
Yeah.
give you a fish, I got to keep coming back and giving you a fish every day. But if I teach you to fish, even if it takes me a couple of tries to get to sink in, and again, for that, it's really comes down to, and there's numerous books on the topics, but repetition and coming at it from different angles. Coming at it from what it looks like, coming at it from what it sounds like, coming at it from what it feels like, because different people will resonate to different modes of coming at something. So you can, and not everything relates to exactly to a look, a feel, or a sound, but those are good, analogies of coming at it from multiple angles. And I also had to try to meet people where they are, like figure out how much they do understand, get where they are, and find the easiest way to walk them to where I need them to be to get, to do the thing they need to do.
Yeah. For me, in the beginning, in the early days, it was a lot of operating system
Yep.
training. First, you got to get comfortable with the environment and the operating system. And then learning different software starts to get easier, because if you can't learn the operating system properly, of course, the software is going to be confusing as well. So it's one step before you take the next step.
Yep. And in some of the early days, like you're saying, the operating system, rather than worrying as much about what people understood about the operating system, because this is going back to before Windows, even where, we were using, Lantastic. We talked about
DOS.
Lantastic
DOS
DOS
was,
and Novell networks. Yeah.
yeah, those I never expected my clients to really get comfortable with DOS and Novell networks.
Comfortable enough. I needed them to be comfortable enough to be my hands typing at the keyboard and my eyes to tell me what they're seeing, so that I can walk them through. Okay, I need you to edit this file and make this change and make that change. So like just little text editing stuff, which is really what all the config file stuff is just, modifying things at that level. And that was, again, going back a lot of years at this point. So none of that's really relevant to what we're doing today, but the approach is the important thing. Understanding
Yeah.
how, like, why we're doing this and why we're looking in this place to fix this other problem.
Yeah, and it's a lot more convenient nowadays, because back then with DOS, I had to go on site. I had to be at that computer in order to get a lot done. Now
Yep.
you've got remote and screen
Mhm.
sharing and a lot more options that have simplified that process.
Absolutely. And it's come a long way over the decades, as I said. I mean, in the early days of getting started with the stuff, it was, as I said, you either had to be there or you had to be able to walk someone through on the phone, being able to make that change for you. Whereas, as the years went on, remoting almost anywhere in the world was very easy. I could just, have somebody go to a website, click a link, and then, read me a number, and boom, I get, I can get right to their machine, and as if I'm sitting there, and the connection speed was good enough to make it quite solid.
Yeah, broadband really opened up administration. I mean, dial-up was a little crazy because every time you connected, different IP address, and slow connection. But once broadband really kicked in, people started having cable modems, consistent IPs. Uh, Supporting clients became a lot easier for me when they had persistent connections.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Made a big difference. And it's something that, again, even now today, things are morphing again and, changing in faster and new ways. So, trying to stay ahead of all of that is important as well. And even if it's just a matter of kind of staying on top of the big changes that are coming around, the big things to be aware of that are coming.
One thing I'm curious to see develop, AI tech support. That's something we haven't really seen or heard. You see, like AI chat tech support, where you have a question, and the AI can kind of narrow down like what the customer's like looking for help. but I see in the future AI developing to actually start to really take care of common problems.
Absolutely. If
And
you just took the knowledge base, or what you develop as a knowledge base from a company where you have a corporate tech support environment, every ticket that gets punched in, every call that you go to fix, whatever you did to fix it and whatever the problem was, the way you categorize everything, if it all goes into the software, then they'll be able to feed that into an AI, and the AI should be able to get a good handle on, when I see this type of situation, I should be able to try this and get rid of 90% of the problems right off the bat.
yeah, and the benefit now is if the AI starts to see there's a common problem with a common solution, it's going to be faster at implementing it and cutting down those ticket times than humans sometimes, where they don't, always communicate with each other.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where, whether it's AI chat agents or things like that, that is going to be a big thing going forward. And that is something that, they'll see more of, and being able to train them with the right kind of sets would definitely make a big difference.
Yeah, I'm interested to see where that develops. So to start, the first video we're going to look at is why you can't stick to learning new technical things. And this one's coming from Tiff in Tech. You remember her? She's got great tech advice. And this was a topic that I've talked with a couple of people about over the last couple of weeks. So I thought this was a good one to start with, to help people get comfortable with when they do deal with a technical obstacle, and think about their approach.
Yeah, the approach is the important thing. Absolutely. And that's the one thing that I would try to teach everybody that I would talk to, no matter their level of technical expertise, is kind of understanding the process that I'm going through. The reason I ask the questions that I do, or the fact that I ask this silly question at the beginning, is because that silly question, solves this problem 85% of the time. So it's like, we start there. You might have already done it, and then we're in that last 15% category already. So that's fine. But I asked the question because if you didn't do that, we do that, and boom, it might just fix it, and I can walk away and I'm the hero and we're all done,
Yeah, yeah, and that's the troubleshooter in you. You ask the right questions, you'll get to the problem faster.
Exactly. And you got to ask them in the right way, because the people, they might be pissed. They might just want to vent for a minute. That's fine too. I mean, I can handle that as well. It's like, personal attacks are no good. Like, don't tell me about, what kind of a jerk I am for not being here, fixing this before it became a problem. It's like, that's a whole different thing. Like,
Yeah.
you can be mad. Don't be mad at me.
Yeah, don't blame the tech support for the problems. They're there to help solve them.
Right. I am the answer. Let's get there.
Yeah. And the second video that we're going to look at to complement it, is how to overcome psychological barriers. And this isn't so much technical as it is, mental. And
Sure.
What I like about this is it's also relevant to creativity. We did that episode a while back on, writer's block,
Yep.
and some of this is all related. It's the defense mechanisms that we sometimes have and do that sometimes can get in our way of overcoming the barriers that we have in front of us. And
Yeah.
this is a Freshie channel, psychological channel. I love these, the School of Life.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And the thing is, I mean, self-awareness is so important, and being able to step outside yourself and see the actions that you've just made from someone else's perspective, like trying to jump into somebody else's shoes. Like, that's something that it sounds silly to even talk about, but some people just really can't do that. Like, they have their perspective and their view on things, and that's a very, narrow focus, and that's all they really see the world through. Whereas if you can really change your perspective and see what your actions look like to someone else, then you really do get a better sense of, what's going on in the world, and how, why do certain people react certain ways, that you
Yeah.
might not understand.
Yeah.
Something
And
as
you,
simple as
you,
that.
you kind of have to develop that self-awareness muscle. It's something that you have to kind of practice to become more self-aware and see things from the different perspectives you need to.
Exactly.
Then we're going to shift to some gear. We've got some
Nice.
cool gear tonight.
Mhm.
Normally, I wouldn't be like pumped up about a keyboard, but this one is interesting. It started with a Kickstarter project, and at first I thought this is kind of a goofy idea. First, I hate trackpads,
Hmm.
so like I was like, why? Why would I want something that I don't like to use in the first place? But then I started thinking, this is something that can be really useful for video editors, audio engineers, and with gesture controls, I could see speeding up my workflow with like
Hmm.
mixing and things, utilizing equipment like this. And this is basically a keyboard that has a built-in trackpad in the keyboard itself.
It looks like both sides too, right?
Yeah, yeah. You see the trackpad under the keyboard. He's got the keyboard lifted over it, but when you put the keyboard on top of it, that little white area in the center there becomes a giant trackpad on top of the keyboard. And with
Hmm.
a quick click of a button, you change from being a keyboard to being a trackpad big enough for two hands to do multiple gestures.
Nice.
A lot of possibilities with this. Another
Hmm.
fresh channel, Trevor Hansen's going to be showing us that. And afterwards, we're going to be kind of going to guitar hardware. And this one's not new, but it's one that's always fascinated me and what it can do to make a guitar sometimes sound more like a bowed stringed instrument. And JHS pedals um, asks the question because he apparently has used it for some time and came to find out he wasn't using it properly. And I'm curious as to like what would someone do naturally when they get this, and what is the proper way to utilize an EBow to take advantage of it.
Hmm. Very cool.
And these next couple, really out of the box. This one came. Ange actually recommended this one. She threw it at me, and um, me when it comes to like acoustics and how to sound sculpt with an acoustic. It's not as versatile as like electric instruments where you've got effects processors and things to help you sculpt sound. But with acoustics, you kind of get what you get. And I mean,
Mhm.
other than like microphone techniques and things like that, adjusting tone on an acoustic is a little trickier. And
Mhm.
this is coming from ToneBar, and he's come up with this invention called the ToneBar that you can modify these acoustics, and it really does change and help the sound, and really can make it sound good. Um, this one, I would, depending on the price, I would like to try it on the acoustic that I have and see if I can actually make it sound better.
Nice. Now, one thing, or like you were saying, there's only so many things that you can do. The one that I saw something that was very similar, or I think might have even been this particular one that I saw, where it was basically talking about getting rid of your tuning pegs and replacing it with something like a bar that would be something like this. The main thing is the things that you would normally change would be the nut or the bridge, and
Yeah,
that'd be where the strings go across, and that's where you get the most contact, or you determine how the string vibrations translate into the body. And that's
yeah.
where you got to have the bridge right, you got to have the nut right, and that's where replacing them with bone, for example,
I-
uh, is one of the places where you can get a noticeable upgrade from a cheesy plastic sound if that's what you're getting out of an acoustic.
Yeah, yeah, and we've looked at some of those in the past. The bone nut and using rubber was
Hmm.
another one that
Hmm. Yep.
is another modification. And this I thought was just a nice out of the box innovative way. It takes a little more work,
Hmm.
and it does require the way you string. You have to change your mentality there,
Hmm.
but if the sound is there, it might be worth checking out.
Hmm.
And this next one, this one was the most interesting one of the gear. that I was looking at, and this one's going to be coming from Andrew Hung. Love his channel. One of the coolest YouTube channels when it comes to like music analysis and theory and equipment. And this particular piece of equipment, I think, is like the future, where this is a headband that kind of reads your thoughts and like your how you're reacting. You see, like it has a heart rate detection and a smart sense EEG, and he's gonna control a MIDI synth with his head.
I like it.
Yeah, it was like, oh, if they can get this one working, I'm there.
Nice. It reminds me of something that my dad and I saw at some, I don't know if it was a science museum where we were or something like that. It might have been Liberty Science Center in New Jersey or whatever. But it was something where they had a table set up where you put a headband on and it's just reading basically your heart rate or your state of calm, right? Like
Yeah,
wherever you
yeah,
whatever you
yeah.
start as a baseline, as long as you remain calm, or whoever of the two people remain more calm, a little ball like starts moving across the field, like like a soccer game. But you're just sitting there trying to remain relaxed, and whoever's more relaxed, the ball will go towards the other person's goal. So it was like it looks like you're sitting there moving the ball with your minds going back and forth. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, and they've been experimenting this for like mouse control and other
Exactly.
things. And
Mhm.
the cool thing is he has one of the technicians helping him with the example, and she kind of like guides him as to like getting used to it and
Mhm.
how to make it work.
Yeah, it reminds me of again. There's numerous ways that you can get an interface to kind of read what you're thinking at this point. One was about pretending that you're moving your arm. Like think about moving your shoulder, but don't move your shoulder. Like you leave your shoulder where it is, but you think about moving your shoulder, and just the thought can actually activate something because it's a certain recognizable pattern in the brain that they can use as a trigger, something like that for
Yeah,
the
and
programming.
they've done that with amputees, where
Right.
they're testing out like how to make a robotic arm react to your thinking, and
Mhm.
they basically like get you to think like you're moving your arms so that they can record your brain pattern so that they
Mhm.
can replay it to the arm and get the arm to do it. And they've had a
Yep.
lot of success with these things. I mean, we're definitely in the future.
Absolutely. And one that helps with that is a mirror thing where if you have an amputee who's lost an arm, if you put a mirror down the middle so that when they're looking, they see their good arm, but in the mirror they can see the other arm as well. And they can like open their fist and open and close their fingers, for example. And it can help because sometimes there are phantom pains where it feels like you're clenching the fist, for example, that isn't there anymore. And it feels like it's always in pain or whatever. The one way to help alleviate that is to, try that mirror thing where you're seeing yourself opening it and closing it, and that can help with the training of something like that where you're actually seeing the result of opening and closing the fist or the arm that's not there, and that can help to program the machines to react to that trigger.
Yeah, it shows you the power of the brain.
Exactly. Good stuff.
And so, and after that, we're going to do a little bit of news. Sanjay C, another awesome YouTube channel, and one of my favorites when it comes to reviews and news. He is the man, and what he's going to be talking about in this one, uh, uh, you're probably not familiar with it. Luna. This
Mhm.
is a DAW that over on the Mac side, I think it's UAD is the hardware company, but it's a lot like Studio One. It's one of those DAWs that integrate tightly with their hardware, but it's also a universal DAW. It works with anything,
Mhm.
but up till now, they've only had it over on the Mac side, and they just came out with a Windows version a couple weeks ago. Made a lot of news on YouTube.
I
I
did see when it
had
came out saying that it was a new free DAW that was out, and it was called Luna.
Yeah, and it got the attention of a lot of the music YouTube channels. I had to really fine pick to and Sanjay delivered.
Nice.
This is a DAW that I think is worthy of taking a look at. And especially if you happen to like the Pro Tools approach or the Logic approach, that's why they started on the Mac side, was as a competitor to those. But that brings it over to the Windows side. And truth be told, on the Windows side, DAWs do not take the Logic or Pro Tools approach. There is no DAW on the Windows side that actually feels like Pro Tools. Even Pro Tools on the Windows side doesn't totally feel like Pro Tools should. So this one really is exciting for me. It's one that I will be trying out for sure.
Yeah. And that's one, like you said, you're reminding me of the articles that I saw about it the other week, but I didn't ever check it out yet. But
Yeah.
I shall.
Well, we will be checking it out tonight.
Exactly.
And then to finish things off, a question that has been getting thrown at me over and over, and a debate that we tend to keep having with those who don't want to do their own mastering and depend on, like, say, BandLab mastering, or Isotope plugins and some of the other mastering plugins out there. And progressions, success in the music industry. Another Freshy channel. This channel looks really cool too. He's gonna ask that question. Is mastering dead, and is it necessary? And he's gonna kind of hit on the points of the benefits of mastering and how things have changed, where it's not every musician's priority anymore.
Right. And some of it is that, they're getting better at the craft in the first place, where the track before mastering sounds really good. And if they get to that point, I mean, is mastering necessary if the track is already at that level of quality? I mean, my short answer would probably be yes. Like it should get even better, if you're doing mastering right. Yeah.
And for me, I would say if you did mix it really good and you're not running through any like post mastering before you upload it somewheres, if you're just putting out like one song, yeah, sure, if the mix is already good and it's just a one-off single that you're putting out, not a big deal. But if you are putting that song with other songs onto an album and you want that cohesion, that all songs sound like they were produced by the same people in the same studio, I would still consider mastering an important part there. Plus, even when you're just putting that single up, different platforms is part of the reason why there's no one magic mastering. SoundCloud mastering is not the same as iTunes mastering, and BandLab totally different from both of them. So you got to know your target there and decide how you're going to deal with the mastering to get it prepared for that platform you're going to put it on.
Well, also for the cohesiveness of an album, a lot of times, I mean, look at the songs that are on it as well. Like a lot of times, a lot of people would release an album, but that's just a collection of songs that have nothing to do with each other. They just threw together because that's the songs that they've worked on recently that they want to put together and put out, which is fine. But other people are looking at an album as a journey. It's like the first song leads to the second song, leads to the third song, and it's all a big story that's all connected. Like a concept album essentially. And with those kinds of things, it's super important that it does sound cohesive from one to the next, because you're trying to carry the listener through the whole thing. Whereas if your album is just a collection of songs you threw together because that's what you're working on, and they're all, this one is, this one's hip hop and this one's rock and this one's whatever, like, and you're just throwing, things all over the place. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's not a cohesive, it's not a story as, as a front to back. You wouldn't be like, oh, I left off in the middle of the story and jump back in there. You would just be whatever is fine.
Yeah, consistently mixing and mastering an album is glue. You're gluing those songs together into that album, and the listener will know if, like, they listen to the first song and it sounds a certain way, it's mixed and mastered a certain way, and then the second song sounds like it's coming out of a garage or played at a club. That's going to throw the listener off a little bit as they're listening through the different songs, especially if every song has a different feel like that.
Exactly.
even if you are doing different genres, you still want them to sound consistent in their volumes and everything else throughout the album.
They don't have to sound the same, but they should sound like they were cooked in the same kitchen, basically.
Yeah, it's like the first couple of Led Zeppelin albums. A lot of different types of songs in those albums, but they transition and blend in sound, even though you go from like something really heavy rock to acoustic, everything still sounded cohesive across their album.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Got me thinking about some old Zeppelin stuff. Good stuff.
Yeah.
The Rover.
I'm always thinking of Zeppelin.
Nice.
So for our first one, for our psychology and why we can't stick to learning new technical things, Tiff and Tech, we came across her a couple months ago, and as I said, I would be back for anything to do with tech. And with this one, it also does blend into the psychology thing. Like I said, I've dealt with clients that are reluctant, and we all sometimes have to face something technical that isn't in our comfort zone. For people who aren't mechanical and they've got to change their oil or deal with their engine,
Oh, yeah.
they either decide to go pay somebody to do it and pay a lot of money, or they get comfortable with the basics of what they need to know so that they can do what they have to do to take care of their equipment. Same goes with computers. You can pay a tech guy to go click the button for you. It's good to understand whether you are that kind of person who shies away from learning something new, or somebody who embraces, like, hey, I'm gonna learn something new. And
Yep.
she's gonna talk about that and the obstacles with it and how to deal with that.
And on the musical side, it's similar to learning how to do intonation on your guitar, learning how to change the strings, learning how to do things like that. If you're going to be a person who's going to be playing a stringed instrument, you should really know how to change the strings, how to get in tune, how to check the intonation. You can pay somebody to set it up, and there's nothing wrong with doing that. I agree with doing that definitely every once in a while, for sure, to get the thing set like it should be, and how it should react to your playing style. Because whoever's setting it up for you should be asking you questions about how you play and the style of music you play, things like that, to get an idea of how they should set it up for you, and what kind of strings you want to use and all that kind of thing. String gauge can make a big difference on tone. That's the other thing you were talking about before. String gauge can change that a lot as well. But we shall see. That is one of the ways that it translates, though, is being interested in your own instrument, and how to maintain it is important.
Yeah, and I think more on the musician who might be comfortable recording their voice into the phone, nice and easy, not too technical. But as they want to get more serious, and hey, maybe I want to set up my computer so that I can record over there, learning a DAW, learning the interface, plugging it in properly. These are all technical obstacles that, I mean, technically every musician can face these days. So it's good to not be scared of technology. You kind of want to be receptive to it if you really want to be a serious musician these days, because today's musician has to deal with some technical obstacles.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah,
and they will come up. even in the best conceived setup, there's going to be something where somebody's just jamming away. Oh, I don't hear anything, and cables just wagging in the breeze. It's like, no, you got to plug it in.
Yeah. So we're going to look at why you can't stick to learning new technical things. We're going to shift this way, and I'll bring the video up, and we'll see why we can't learn new technical things.
Right.
Okay, have you ever started learning something, especially something technical, and had great enthusiasm at the beginning? Only a few weeks, a few months later, you wonder where that went? Why all of a sudden do we always seem to find ourselves stopping to learn what we started? Especially when it comes to something new in your career, technical or otherwise? Well, first off, you're not alone. In fact, 80% of people who start learning a new skill quit within the first 3 months, according to studies. But what if I told you there was a way to break this cycle? And this video came to me as I'm sitting here in my hotel room in Seattle. I'm attending the Microsoft Build conference. I'm someone who's currently focused on learning and studying AI and machine learning. And doing so while on a work trip and, not in my normal environment is the last thing I want to do. But I know I need to. This brought up old kind of thoughts or behaviors that I personally had where I would start learning something new because it was hot, trendy, whatever the case may be, or I thought it would help me with my salary or my career, but then I just fall off. And I mean, learning new skills in today's environment is more important than ever. We are seeing technology evolve at a faster pace than we ever have. To keep up with it, we need to continuously be learning. Now, it doesn't mean to constantly be overkill with learning new things, but finding what you are passionate about, and when you do, then actually taking the time to understand what you are learning, to become an expert in it, and not just something that you start and then stop. I mean, let's take a look back in history. Learning has undergone significant changes. In the past, education was often limited to privileged individuals and focused on memorization. Then came the advent of the printing press. Yes, these big old things that allowed for knowledge to start becoming more accessible. Next up was the internet. Hi, that's what we're communicating on right now. That was a bad joke. You get what I mean though. Where knowledge became accessible to the masses. I mean, anything you want to learn is available online. And the challenge really has shifted from gaining access to this knowledge to having so much knowledge that we don't know how to stick with something. We don't know how to focus and continue to learn what we want to actually learn. We just get overwhelmed and shift our focus again. Now, there are many reasons so many of us end up quitting what we are learning. I mean, from starting a family to lack of time, well, I guess that goes hand in hand, to lack of resources or feeling that way anyways. Maybe you need a tutor or a community, or even yet the absence of a clear learning path, not really knowing where to learn. And yes, that is very possible, actually almost more so than ever now online, which is it sounds counterintuitive because nowadays there are so many resources available online. You think it would be the opposite, but in reality, it's this information overload that we are constantly bombarded with. But there are solutions, there are scientific-backed solutions that have really worked for me, I'm going to share with you, that will help you be able to focus when you are learning something new and stick with it. That is the most important part. Whether it be a technical skill, whether it be a soft skill related to your career as well, anything like that. These tips are things that you can apply today. Now, the first one is called interleaved practice, and this is really interesting. Interleaved practice involves alternating between different topics or skills during your learning sessions. So, for example, say you are learning a concept within AI. Say you are learning about supervised learning. You're studying it, you're wrapping your head around it. With interleaved practice, what you would do is then switch into a different topic. So maybe it's something more so focused on deep learning or machine learning, whatever the case is. Now, I didn't say unsupervised learning as the opposite, of course, to supervised learning in this example, because you want to take something that is still a little bit intertwined as to what you are learning, but not so much that it feels like you're just continuing on. It's a continuation. It needs to feel different. And this is really interesting. There was research conducted in 2008 by Cornell that found interleaved practice actually enhances retention and learning compared to block practice, which is focusing on one skill at a time. And why this works is because by switching between topics, it challenges your brain. It keeps it active, it keeps it awake to make connections and develop a deeper understanding. Okay, the next one is really cool. It's called elaborate interrogation. So listen to this. Elaborate interrogation is a technique where you ask yourself why questions while learning. And this one has helped me significantly. Okay, so here's some data behind it. A study by Donalski in 2013 showed that elaborative interrogation improves learning outcomes by encouraging a deeper processing of information. So here's an example. Say you are learning any concept. As you are learning it and you're going down this path, take a step back and ask, why is this important? And I remember the first time this was shared with me, it was a manager when I worked at IBM actually, and I was talking to them about Angular at the time. And they said, well, Tiff, why are we using this framework? Why are we using this technology? And it took me back a sec. I thought, well, this is just what the client picked. This is what we're supposed to use. But when you really take a step back and uncover the why are you learning something? Why is this concept important to understand? That is a very tough question to answer. And when you are able to answer that, you will unlock so much learnings within that. Okay, next up, this one is called dual coding. And no, it's not coding related, but you can use it to learn different technical topics. And this one is interesting because it involves the senses, I guess. So what this this was a study done by Meyer and Anderson back in the 90s, but it's still very relevant and spoken about a lot today. And they found that presenting information in both verbal and visual formats would lead to better learning outcomes. So both verbal and visual. So how would this work? This is a great example of when you are learning something, creating visual aids such as diagrams or using them to help you learn. And then using these diagrams to complement your notes. Make sure they're physically handwritten notes as well, because that is such a big help versus when you are typing. It's proven by so many people that, not just people, scientists, that when you write out your notes, it is so much more efficient in retaining information than when you are typing. So this is key. And the other thing with this too is verbal. So actually speaking out loud, this is where the rubber duck method comes in, where you are actually just speaking out loud into the void, if you will, about what you are learning. Because what that will do is it will show if there are any holes in your learning. Because oftentimes, whether you are explaining it to the void or you are explaining it to a person, there will be gaps in your knowledge. You might think in your mind as you are studying that, oh yeah, I got that, this is great. But then especially if you have the opportunity to share your learnings with another human versus the void, and they start asking questions, they don't know anything about this topic, it will really help retain it. Okay, those are the 4 science-backed techniques that will really help you be able to focus in on your learnings. And not only that, but when you are using techniques that help you focus, retain information, it is more motivating to keep on going. The reality is, a lot of us give up on when we are learning because it's challenging. Nothing seems to stick, we aren't making progress. We can use excuses of lack of time, resources, etc. But if you were to spend a few minutes every day or throughout the week to learn something new using these techniques, and you actually see yourself making progress, it is significantly easier to carry on with it long term and also get excited about it. Knowing that you are making progress, you can sense that you have come such a far way from when you started versus constantly having to go back because you don't have a plan in action, you don't have these techniques in action, and you always are going back to the beginning to learn again. All right, those are my 4 techniques. I use them all throughout learning different things. I love them all. And I love merging science with different techniques for studying because these techniques have been studied for so long. You can search up any of them, that it's proven methods that work for so many different learners and types of individuals. And it's exciting when you find something that will actually help you learn long term. On that note, what are you learning right now? Leave in the comments what questions you have, what videos you want me to create. That's how I make this content, is for you, for what you want to hear about. All right, check out this view though. This is how we'll end it. Oh, pretty cool. Bye, everyone. Oh, hit that subscribe button.
Oh, she is good.
Seattle looks nice. Yeah.
What she's suggesting there, they use that a lot in corporate training to get your employees, especially in the tech world, and programmers, coders, on the same channel, taking the same kind of approach. And all her suggestions there, power suggestions for like getting a tight knit tech team.
Oh yeah. Not to mention like you were saying, the interleaving things. Like while you're learning one subject, bring in another subject that's unrelated but also interesting in a different way. Perhaps helps to make different connections and helps to reinforce both. Definitely,
and
learning every day is something I've always agreed with, for sure.
I like learning that term, interleave learning. I've done it. I never realized I was doing it, or what it was, or its benefits. But if you are hitting something that's overly complex and you take a step back and you find something that is in your comfort zone, like she said, slightly related enough so that you can kind of wade into the waters that you need to.
Exactly.
Yeah, I can
Lots of
see
good different
why, like,
techniques.
it, her companies that she works with must love her. She's
Mhm.
spot on with all the advice. Um, she's got to be real good at like whipping a team into shape.
Very much.
Yep, that's
And like you
at
said, we'll be back for sure.
Tiff in Tech. Yep, at
Mhm.
Tiff in Tech over on YouTube. Any of you tech guys out there,
Mhm.
this is a channel, especially if you're starting out in tech, because a lot of her advice is very relevant to when you're becoming a technician, when becoming part of that IT staff.
Right.
And she's got lots of videos on coding and AI development these days, and that's huge.
Yeah, for sure. And that's another one where, coding languages, there's so many different languages, and it's not that you have to know this one or you have to know that one, but there's so many that can be useful in so many different ways. And just understanding multiple languages helps, again, reinforce different ways of thinking, different ways of solving problems. It's like understanding multiple languages, actual languages, speaking languages, where, it helps you think in different ways when you know different ways of thinking about things.
Yeah, yeah. So we will be back, Tiff.
Absolutely.
Every time we have a technical episode.
Hmm.
But now we're going to shift a little more to the psychology behind some of those scenarios where if you are having a problem learning, running into technical obstacles, and um, why we do some of the things we do, and how we kind of work mentally when it comes to dealing with psychological barriers.
Hmm.
This one's a
Psychology
freshie
is very
channel.
important.
Come on. The School of Life. Self understanding, calm, and emotional maturity.
Hmm. My kind of stuff.
And yeah, and this is another one that, like, this channel, I think, is another one that's designed for that corporate mentality where you want to, kind of get your employees into the right mindset, and ready for the work that they're going to do. And this is one of those channels that I think, a lot of the corporate world out there utilizes for these kind of warm-ups with
Mhm.
new employees.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, with some of the more high tech type of jobs or information, some of the information is very dry. Some, like, whether it's programming or if it's things like that, it could be a lot of very dry information. So by interleaving or bringing in other information that's something still interesting but totally unrelated, it can help you get a refreshing okay, and then dive back into the more, let's say, boring or dry material that you need to get through in order to fully understand the concepts that you're working on in the tough in the tough fields.
Yeah, and in this case, kind of get to know yourself, and when you are doing some of these things that they're going to be talking about.
Mhm.
And like I mentioned, this isn't just for technical advice. This does apply to creative challenges as well. Those
Oh yeah.
writer's blocks that we've had to deal with and things like that, related
Mhm.
to some of this scenario.
Absolutely.
So let's see how to overcome psychological barriers.
Mhm.
We humans are extraordinarily and painfully vulnerable creatures. Especially in our early years, we are at huge danger of being psychologically damaged by those around us. Damage is in one way or another always caused by a shortfall of tenderness and care. As we might put it, it's caused by a shortfall of love. Examples of shortfalls of love are very varied. Perhaps at an early point, someone went missing, or someone died, someone was cruel, or someone misunderstood. And, as a result of this deficit, universally, some kind of wound was sustained. We are psychologically very ingenious creatures. In the face of any wound, we develop an array of very clever defense mechanisms. The purpose of defense mechanisms is to protect us against further damage, to help us to get through to the next stage of existence, to keep us going, in extremis, to save our lives. For example, to protect us against this wound, a parent who goes missing, we develop this defense mechanism, an inability to feel sad whenever anyone is absent. Or to protect us against an alcoholic caregiver, we develop the defense of huge independence and self-containment, and so on. The problem with our defense mechanisms is that they always exact a price. While they protected us very well at a certain age, the more time passes, the more they become unsuited to the conditions that we face in the here and now. What were once ingenious adaptations to a hostile environment become, over the years, the causes of behaviours that limit our chances and ruin things for us. For example, to return to the above table but with a new column on the right, to protect us against this wound, a parent who goes missing, we develop this defense mechanism, an inability to feel sad whenever anyone is absent. And then the price of our defense mechanism is that our relationships are shallow and brittle. Or, to protect us against an alcoholic caregiver, we develop the defense mechanism of huge independence and self-containment. And then the price, we can't depend on anyone. A loneliness. And further examples follow. It's in the nature of how our minds work that we generally can't see the connection between how our defense mechanisms operate in the here and now and the wounds we sustained in the past. These defense mechanisms give us what we call symptoms. We have a tendency to just accept these symptoms even if they're very painful. Often we don't even notice them. For example, we accept that we're not so good at love, or we accept that we're quite lonely, or we don't notice that we're manically cheerful, or we don't notice how much we're underperforming at work. In order to heal ourselves from our symptoms and the emotional wounds that lie beneath them, we have to learn to understand ourselves better. Our happiness relies on becoming more self-aware. The more we can work at understanding ourselves, the healthier, freer, and more creative we can be. How then can we unpick the legacy of emotional wounds? Self-understanding is a 7-stage process. Firstly, we need to learn to identify our symptoms. For this, we need to grow more ambitious about who we want to become in the future. We need to scan the present and wonder how things could be improved. We should ask, what would I like to get rid of in myself? What fruitless habits, compulsions, or areas of stuckness would I like to overcome? What's more painful than it needs to be? What patterns of difficulty can I notice once I look carefully? Secondly, we need to identify our defense mechanisms. These can be very hard to spot, but it helps to consider a list of what some very common defense mechanisms are to see if they ring any bells. We might never have thought of these things as defense mechanisms, but we may nevertheless feel a moment of recognition when we hear of the following: falling in love with unavailable people, ensuring our relationships always fail, underperforming at work, being very independent, addiction to alcohol, porn, exercise, work, feeling numb, hypervigilance, continuous anxiety, constant sadness, depression. Thirdly, we're used to thinking of defense mechanisms in rather negative terms. They're typically framed in problematic ways, like illnesses that have no rationale. They do cause us difficulties, but to think of them negatively only doesn't allow us to understand that they actually have a logic, and that it's only on the basis of understanding their logic that we can overcome them. So long as we continue to see them as meaningless, freakish aberrations, we'll never rid ourselves of them. We must therefore learn to look at defense mechanisms as highly ingenious, very clever strategies that once would have done a very good job at keeping us safe. We need to look for the upside of whatever defense mechanism we recognize in ourselves. We should ask, what was this defense mechanism clever at doing for us? How did it help us? How was it, in its way, rather wise and admirable? So, common defense mechanisms: falling in love with unavailable people. What's the clever upside of the defense mechanism? We don't have to be let down. Or the common defense mechanism of ensuring our relationships always fail. What's the clever upside? We don't need to experience loss. Underperforming at work. What's the clever upside? We don't have to risk generating envy. Being very independent. What's the clever upside? No one can disappoint us. And so on. Fourthly, now we need to reconstruct why a defense mechanism was ever necessary in our life. What was it about our past that would have made it necessary to have our specific defensive strategy in place? What wounds did we sustain, what happened in the past, to make life difficult? We might not be used to thinking in this way. The past may be a long way back now. But we need to proceed like archaeologists who try to reconstruct, from the fragments in the here and now, some of the circumstances of a bygone era. Let's add another column to our chart and try to fill it in as best we can. So, common defense mechanisms: falling in love with unavailable people. Clever upside: we don't have to be let down. Now, what wound might we have suffered in the past to make this defense mechanism necessary? Maybe mum was never there. Or, imagine the common defense mechanism of ensuring our relationships always fail. What's the clever upside? We don't need to experience loss. Now, what wound might we have suffered in the past to make a defense mechanism like this necessary? Perhaps Dad was erratic. Or take the idea of underperforming at work. What's the clever upside? We don't have to risk generating envy. What wound might we have suffered in the past to make this defense mechanism necessary? Maybe there was an older sibling who was bullying and jealous. And so on. Fifthly, now we should do something very unfamiliar. We should congratulate ourselves on having been rather clever with our defense mechanisms. Far from being some silly, neurotic feature of our lives, defense mechanisms have been an ingenious way of keeping us away from devastation. Let's take a moment to feel proud of our smart minds for devising a means of carrying us past danger onto the next stage of life. Let's feel compassion and admiration for our defensive strategy. 6. Now, having given ourselves all due congratulations, we then need to do something else. Realize that our defense mechanisms are in fact past their sell-by date. They were once undoubtedly pretty clever, we can feel grateful to them, but now they don't serve any purpose anymore. Now they make life worse than it needs to be. In the circumstances of the present, they aren't required. We can afford to say goodbye to them. Indeed, we must do so. Let's add another column to our chart to make it clear to ourselves how we're losing out because of a defense mechanism. So, common defense mechanism: falling in love with unavailable people. The clever upside of the defense mechanism: we don't have to be let down. What wound might we have suffered in the past to make a defense mechanism here necessary? Mum was never there. And what price are we paying now for our defense mechanism? We can't enjoy intimacy. Or, let's take another example. Common defense mechanism: ensuring our relationships always fail. What's the clever upside? We don't need to experience loss. What wound might we have suffered? Perhaps Dad was erratic. And what price are we paying now for our defense mechanism? We haven't been able to have the family that we want. And there are plenty of other kinds of price that we're paying now. We're underselling ourselves, we feel isolated, our health is suffering badly, life doesn't feel very real, we're worried sick, our spirits are low. Seventh, now that we have the following, a defense mechanism in view, its logic, and its punishing price, we are in an excellent position to carry out the next step, deciding to say goodbye to the defense mechanism. Very gently, we can let our minds know that the mechanism that once kept us safe can be let go of. We can be safe in other ways. Indeed, our future flourishing depends on us surrendering our hold on our former defense. Once it made sense to be numb, now it no longer does. Once it made sense to be fiercely independent, now it no longer does. Once we had to be sad and fearful, now we can be hopeful and free.
Like Kevin said, great material for any genre.
Yep, definitely. Getting to know yourself is very important. And being open to the conversation with yourself is important to get there.
Well, and I like the emphasis that not to treat defense mechanisms as negative, which would be, our default way of thinking there. See them as learning lessons, as tools to better development.
Yep. But don't allow them to, run your life, understand them, see them, recognize them when they happen, and decide if you want to allow that to, adjust your behavior or not.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it goes
Because
to
you
what
can
you were
choose to do
saying.
whatever.
It goes to what you were saying about being self-aware, to be able to recognize when you do have defense mechanisms like the ones he mentioned there. I mean, between all those different possible symptoms of defense mechanisms, any one of us could have one or two of those at any given time. And to recognize when it is becoming a defense mechanism for you is the first step in overcoming what you need to.
Mm-hmm. And, be willing to ask the question, if people are acting like you're acting like a jerk, ask yourself, am I acting like a jerk? Maybe I am. You have to be able to consider that possibility if people are treating you that way. So,
Well,
be
did you
willing,
see?
be open to
You
that.
saw some of the. You saw some of the children that we started with in the chat tonight, and like if they are watching, I hope they especially paid attention because at some point you're going to have to grow up and you're going to want to understand these things because it's a key to growing up.
Yep. And allows you to do
Otherwise, otherwise you're going to have a hard life. You ain't going to get along with anybody, and platforms like this will eventually kick you off because you're not bringing anything to the creative table. So they can give us crap for what we do, but we're here to help. We're here to talk about things like this and music and not act like babies in other people's streams.
And I think we're moving on to hardware at this point. That
Yeah.
keyboard.
Now we need to get to some gear.
Mm-hmm.
Before we do, just quick, at the School of Life TV, Freshie
Right.
channel, and you know me, I like the psychology, so I'm glad that we get these added to our list of subscribers.
Yep. There were a couple others that I saw videos of, not that, quite like that, but of a similar style, I guess, about things like manipulation tactics, how people manipulate you and, identifying the different tactics that are used, different kinds of, things like gaslighting and things like that, just different types of psychological manipulation tools that are used and, just to be able to identify what's being used in conversations or in articles that you're reading, things like that. It's very important for critical thinking as well.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's a couple of videos in here about narcissism because
Oh,
that's
yeah,
a big
for sure.
one these days.
Oh, yeah. You'll see a lot about that for sure.
Yeah.
And again, identifying a lot of the stuff is the key, to, understanding at least, how it's happening or why it's happening or how to deal with it. Understanding what it is can help rather than just thinking, oh, everything's terrible and I have no idea what's going on. Understand, get yourself informed about what's going on, But
Yeah.
always check your sources. Check your sources. Check multiple sources.
Yep.
See what the other side is saying also, and you know, be open to evaluate both.
Because knowledge is power.
Absolutely. What sounds more likely? You know, ask yourself that, and ask yourself, you know, what is you know, which is trying to manipulate your emotions more, and which is trying to just give information more. Because the types of sources that I go to are the ones that are just trying to lay the information out there in a neutral fashion as much as possible.
Yeah. Yeah, and when it comes to sources, there's a trust thing that you need to get with your sources in order to feel like you've got reliable sources. So learn to trust the good sources and learn to recognize the bad ones.
Yep, indeed.
Yep.
Thank you, School of
So
Life.
now for our gear talk here. These different pieces. I was surprised to be adding a keyboard.
I was surprised to hear you adding a keyboard.
Yeah. This would not be the normal gear. I mean, if we were more like talking about gaming and things, keyboards, big deal, usually with gamers. But as I've been looking at different hardware that can help for video editing and music production, you know, over the some of the episodes we've looked at different things that could be useful in the music environment and video editing environment. Controllers, the MIDI controller night we had, I saw a couple of musical controllers that could be useful for video editing. And when I first looked at this, I didn't really think like this is going to be something. Oh yeah.
I mean, even something like the Axiom, you know, just because, you know, the mod wheel, you know, you could use the mod wheel as, or, you know, either of those as a scrub wheel, or, you know, you do different things. If you could do the learn feature, you know, go, hey, this is going to be this, and this is going to be that, with just a couple of these, just a couple of the knobs and a couple of the, you know, wheels, you can get yourself, you know, and even the taps for doing like a mark in, or your, you know, tap in, tap out.
Yeah, and then that's the key with these controllers. They're teachable, they're programmable, and that's how you can make them useful in situations. And after I thought about this idea here, it's very programmable. Gesture control, something like this, I think, is the bridge. Incorporating it this way into a keyboard is one step closer to that future where the Tony Stark, where he's gesturing like with screens in front of him, you know, virtual screens.
Yep.
This is kind of the beginning of controllers that can bring that world to us. I hate trackpads, but I love the idea of gesture control. And when you get a trackpad like this, and especially where you can utilize it dual hands, there's a lot of possibility here. I would love to get my hands on one and see how I could incorporate it into my different workflows.
One early, I guess you would call it not really a holographic controller, but basically your hands are just in space, and you can make gestures, or you can have there's a plane where it can be like, that's where the click is. So you can just, you know, in a plane in front of you, it was basically, one thing was called the Leap motion controller. I think that was a Kickstarter, like, or something. I remember being part of, like, you know, an early iteration of that and testing it out. And it was basically just a small thing that sat like below your space bar, you know, below your keyboard. And if your hands were out there in front of it, you know, it would basically be able to read the gestures on your hands, and you could just do everything with gestures. You could, you know, open things, close things, move things, tap on things. And it wasn't, you know, yet the targeting was a little bit, you know, strange. And I guess the, you know, it had a limited field of view because it was a single, you know, thing looking up at your hands. So I think as they've made iterations, I assume that they've gone to looking from both sides. So you're seeing it in stereo, so you get a better idea in space where everything is. But being able to recognize the gestures and what to do with them is the important thing, and making it very intuitive. You know, you want to grab something and move it over here. You want to grab something and zoom in on it. You know, you want to grab something and make it smaller and put it over there. You know, all those types of gestures are very intuitive if you know, can make it respond the way you want it to. You don't even have to think about, how do I do this? I want this over here. You know, like, just do it like that. happen.
That is the big key to this kind of technology. The more intuitive it is, the more natural it feels. People did not have a problem getting used to pinching and pulling and swiping.
Mhm.
It was very easy and natural. And as the technology, as the touch screens got better and better, the gesture control got better and better. With the cameras and trying to like see what you're doing, the
Mhm.
camera's got to be in a certain way in
Mhm.
order for things to work, but it keeps getting better and better.
Exactly. And that's the thing is, the early iterations, what I saw with some of those things like that Leap Motion controller were things that, they've built on now for another 10 or 20 years since then. I don't remember how long it's been, but, that's the kind of thing where I am excited to see where it is now and to see what kinds of things. I remember, do you remember way back Johnny Mnemonic, that movie with
Yep.
Keanu Reeves? And at one point, like he's using a set of like he's typing, but he's got like stuff like gloves that have all kinds of like wires and stuff on every finger, and it's but it's we've gotten to where it's now it can just look at your hands and know what you meant to type, or it can display a keyboard on the table and you hit the keys there and it knows which ones you clicked on.
It's been over a decade since I saw a virtual keyboard where it was
Yep.
basically a camera that
Yep.
popped out like a laser version of a keyboard right
I
on the
remember that. Yep.
desk for you. And I mean, it was cool. I was like, oh, if this, they probably smoothed it out since, but
Mhm.
like the whole idea of like, I can pop a keyboard in front of you virtually and you can see it. I think the thing that probably killed it is a lot of us like the tactical feedback, and we want a keyboard we can feel. And me, I happen to like the clickety clankety. I'm real
I do
old
too.
school, so
I
I
still have
wouldn't.
one of those old IBM keyboards around here somewhere that's got the real mechanical like clank clank on every key, and
Yeah, yeah.
there's something
wouldn't.
satisfying about typing fast on that.
I wouldn't make something like that my go-to keyboard, but hey,
Mhm.
if I'm like sitting in a hotel room or on a plane or something and I limited space and you know something like that, and all of a sudden I've got a virtual keyboard in front of me, it certainly can come in handy.
Yep. And actually, Kevin, that was one of the ones that I was talking about is the drumstick controller. We were talking about it the other day,
Yeah.
where the drums don't have to actually contact anything. It just knows that when it feels when you basically stop. It feels the that you stopped going down and you started going up, and so it knows that was a hit. It can like feel that, so you can go and as fast as you can make the motions in the air is as fast as it'll react, and you can basically tune it to say, okay, hitting over here, or if I swing over here in space, it knows that that's the tom, and it knows that over here is the floor tom, and over here is the snare. So where you're swinging in space, so basically you're just playing a drum kit as if it's sitting in front of you, and you would hear it as if you're playing it because it's right there.
Yeah, and one of those wireless drumsticks does have tactical feedback, so you feel like you're actually hitting something because the stick reacts.
Exactly. Kind of like the way the PlayStation controllers had that rumble feature. It would be
Yeah,
some kind of impulse control in there that can make it where it feels like you had an impact there.
yeah, they've gotten really good with some of that,
Yeah.
especially on the gaming side. Like, that's kind of where a lot of that technology was birthed, and now it's making its way into like music technology.
One that was a slightly different side of that same idea almost was one that where you put a clamp on like a imagine like a piece of plastic patio furniture table where it's just a plastic top that's just plain, but like you tap it, like you put this little microphone, basically an impact microphone on each side where it's like in contact with the table, and then you hit it in the spot that you want and it recognizes that spot, and you can now mark that spot. Okay, that's the snare, and then the next one, and you can like mark whatever spots you want on the table, and whenever you hit those spots it'll register those sounds, so you have the actual impact and rebound of something, hitting something actually, but it reads or it knows what it sounds like when you hit that specific spot versus this spot, so it can very accurately do each sound as long as you're accurately hitting in those spots that you programmed it for, based on the
I'm
frequencies, the vibrations in the table.
I'm hoping somebody will come out with a glove with like little sensors on each finger, and I can map like my thumbs are the kick drums,
There you go.
and there's my snares, and I could definitely play finger drums if I could program each finger for the drum that I want
Sure.
without having
Now,
to deal with the pads. And like even with the pads the way they are now, you're still dealing with like a 8 a 4x4 or an 8x8 grid, and you got to move around. But if you get it down to the fingertip and map it out, doesn't matter where I move.
Nice.
Matter of fact, if I move up, like change to a different cymbal or a different snare, that would be really cool.
For sure. Yeah, there's got to be some good ways to do that, and that's the thing is whether it's gloves, whether it's something tactile, just thinking about the way to program it, like which the way to get more. Sometimes they have a mouse where, like, I mean, both you and I like the thumb ball trackballs, right? The Trackman.
Yeah.
But they have some where they have actually a bunch of buttons like along the thumb there, so you would actually have like a whole bank of 9 more buttons right there. So that's like 9 more modifiers that you could do for different things as well if you're using a controller like that. So that's where you could really with gloves I could imagine getting a whole bunch of different things, but it's not always just okay this finger, or this finger. Like there's got to be multiple things you could do with each one, right? So you can have it tap directly down, or you can have it crunch in towards the hand, or you can have it hit with another finger. Like these two mean something different than each one separately, all that kind of stuff.
If the glove is really smart, not only is it picking up the fingertip action, it's picking up whether you're bent or straight, and you can get additional information just on the shape of the finger and what mode it's in.
Yep.
Hopefully somebody out there who's an inventor is hearing this and make it.
Nice.
Oh, and he's considering getting some of those aero bands. Uni, if you get those, I want a full review.
Absolutely. And video to prove it.
Yeah. And if somebody does come up with like gloves like this, Trevor is probably going to be one of the guys who's going to end up checking it out, because he does have like some unique reviews. He looks at some cool stuff. This is another Freshie channel. We get a couple of them in there every week. At Trevor Hansen 3489. Again, he convinced me to do a video about a keyboard.
And again, gestures, that's an important point to get into, is how much you can do with gestures in different types of software, like you're talking.
Yeah. So I'm really glad that he reviewed this, because I probably wouldn't have stumbled on something like this otherwise.
Indeed.
So this is a CLVX1 review, the ultimate keyboard with a built-in trackpad.
Nice.
I wonder if there's any keyboards with a touchpad. Let's see here. Windows, touchpad, keyboards. Let's see what pops up. No, I don't want a touchpad on the side. No, these are all kind of whack. What the heck? Yeah, I don't see anything. Hey, yo! Yeah, you, right there. You looking for a keyboard with a built-in trackpad? I might just have just what you're looking for. Let me go find it. Oh, that's not it. Oh, here it is. Alright, this bad boy, the CLVX1. It's got a trackpad built under the keys, and you don't even need another device. You know what? Just for you, I'm gonna go ahead and hook you up. But there's one thing you gotta promise me, and that is, hey, you ain't heard or seen from me. Hopefully you guys liked that intro. Speaking of, thank you. Alright, so when you first open the box, you're greeted with a nice, cool effect, almost looking as if it's being initialized and ready to be used. I thought it was very unique and cool. I couldn't get it to replicate it any other way, so I mean, I guess if you don't pay attention, you might miss it. So after taking it out, you're greeted with a nice braided USB-C cable and an instruction manual, but we just look at it real quick, throw it back in there because we don't need all that. We hook all this up. I did want to mention that this is a Kickstarter project. I'm part of their beta testing program, and I'm no means being paid. I ain't being paid at all, but I ain't being told to give it only praises or say good things about it. This is my own honest opinion about the product, and I just want to let you know that up front. But if you do want to check out the Kickstarter, I'll throw it in the description. I believe the sales are cut off at the moment, but I believe they did say that they will start it back up soon-ish, so just be on the lookout. So yeah, so that'll be linked in the description, and let's move on. So when you're setting it up, you have the option of either Bluetooth or hardwired. I did hardwired in this instance, but it does have 3 options, or 3 profiles, I should say, whenever you're first, or whenever you're trying to connect to Bluetooth, which is great, especially coming from someone that uses a mouse on multiple devices. Being able to have something that can replace that mouse on all those devices instead of just one is great. All right, so on first touch, here's the device. But on first touch, you can tell it feels premium. It's got a little weight to it. It's rigid, and the keys have a very nice tactile feeling. I don't know if you can hear this, but yeah, it's a great typing experience, especially just taking it out the box. And something I enjoy. It's got per RGB or per key RGB customizable effects that you can do and change in the app that I'll get into a little later, and auto brightness, which will change the brightness based on the environment you're in. Or if you want to, you can just simply change it by swiping up here to brighter, and if you want to lower the brightness, you just swipe it right there. Pretty cool, I think so anyways. But yeah. All right, so the moment you've been waiting for, the built-in trackpad. So as you'll see on the keyboard, the white lines outlining the keys are how big the trackpad is. So it is a pretty big trackpad. I like it. It's got pretty good precision, as well as it supports all gestures, point and click, drag and drop, as well as left click and right click, and 3 and 4 swipe gesture controls as well, and taps. So it also, when you're typing, it switches from trackpad to typing pretty quickly. You can change it within the app as well to be super fast, or if you want it a little on the slower side, you can do that. And then if you just want to use it as a regular keyboard, you just simply hit this type button. It'll highlight, let you know that it is in typing only mode, and then there, if you just feel like using it again. All right, let's hop over into the Touch on Keys app, which is the app that it comes with. So on the right hand side, when you first open it, you'll see that there's a Discord link. You can go in there and let them know if you got a keyboard. Hey, I got a keyboard. They'll give you different permissions based on your role in there, and you can ask them questions and ask for troubleshooting tips if you're having any issues, and that's just a general way for you to get some support. If you scroll down a little more, you'll be taken to a website that's it hosts a collection of their videos that help you tailor the keyboard experience to whatever you need, whether someone, a developer like myself, a video editor, or someone that just uses regular office apps. You can go in there, watch videos, and figure out how to create your own gestures, or gestures for your liking. In the touch area, like I showed in the touch slider, that you can customize the left touch slider and the right touch slider. Right now I have it on brightness for the yellow, and on the right side for purple I have the volume control. And some other things right now, once we go to the actual gestures, you'll notice that whenever you are customizing the 3 points or the 3-finger slide left, up, and down, some of the text goes off the screen and or off the fitted area, and you just can't read it all sometimes. I have reached out to them, and they actually provided me an update, so I'll include that screenshot in there. You can't, so that's like another thing, the text cuts off, as well as you can't resize the app yet, but those are both works in progress. So seeing them being proactive about issues that their users are having is another reason I really like this product. So another thing that it has is it has per I guess profile or application customization as well. So in the top right, if you look, you'll see that it has like a Chrome, an Edge, a Photoshop, a Premiere, and a After Effects or Adobe Illustrator profile tab. If you click on it, you can change the specific gesture based on the application that you're in, which is something that I think is going to make productivity even better for those that actually can utilize it all. I've messed around with the Premiere, obviously, for editing this video just to get a nice taste, and I will say when it works, it's great. currently. There's some issues that I've been running into that I've been letting them know, and they've been pretty proactive. Like in the beginning, whenever I said the trackpad is pretty precise, when I first got it, it was tough to get the cursor to be like where you want to get it, like in between two letters or something. I reached out to them 2 days later. They gave me an update, and it's working much better. So that's just something else to be wary of. All right, now let's get into some of the pros of the device that I've encountered. So the biggest thing for me is having that, like I said at the beginning, having that laptop feel at all times. I've always felt like I've been the most productive with it, and that, like I said, is what I've been chasing. The biggest thing for me is the gesture support. Like I showed in the app, we can customize it on a per profile or a per like application basis. So whether it's so I'm developing and I'm using the Google Chrome and I need to swipe through a bunch of tabs, I can just instantly go, like, without even picking up my fingers, I can just swipe through, swipe out, open up applications or select them much faster instead of having to use my mouse at 90% of the time. So I have found that I don't really need to use my mouse, but there's just habits that I do, so I just keep it there. So it's like a habit to pick it up, or if there's certain things that I'm having issues with, I will. Now there aren't pros without cons. So like I said at the beginning, it's still in beta, I'm still testing things out, but I did notice that the trackpad wasn't active or wasn't as accurate. So I'd reach out, let them know, they'd get back to me 3 days later, and boom, it was a lot better than whenever I first got it. And so it's great just seeing a team that is actively doing things for their users to make them have the best experience. And it just gives you the peace of mind, especially if you're going to invest in a device like this over time. Being able to know that it's going to get better with your feedback is just amazing. So another big thing is while typing, sometimes I guess maybe my palm triggers something and it will just like close down on my apps, or I had to like try to swipe up to get it working, as well as sometimes the gestures for certain devices or certain profiles don't work. So sometimes if I have it on the Premiere Pro, I'm in Premiere Pro, it won't work, but if I switch it out, the gestures will work. That is something I've noticed, and I've reached out to them, and that's just something else that they're working on. But yeah, that could just be because I have it on the quickest time, as you see in the app, that you can customize how fast the switches from typing to trackpad, and that's just something else that I got to play with. All right, so overall thoughts. I think it's a great device and concept, especially if you're someone that's like me, an extreme multitasker, or if you're even a keyboard hobbyist, or someone that just wants a new experience, or like I said, the laptop experience at your desktop. I think it's a great investment. Being able to not only keep that laptop experience, but also being able to switch from device to device, pretty simple. Say if you're at home and you work at home to do this, and you want to take this keyboard to work, it's easy just to set up that profile. You don't have to worry about it, and you can keep that same trackpad experience like I've been wanting for a good minute. But for now, I think since it is still in beta and I'm actively testing it, I'm probably going to be switching back and forth between it and using my main keyboard up there that I have it just sitting up there at the moment. But yeah, I'm gonna keep going back and forth, not to just get tied to a device like this, but to just continue what I was doing. And yeah, hopefully you enjoyed it. If there's something that you want me to test specifically with it, please comment below and I'll be sure to get to it. And like if you enjoyed, and sub if you want more, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you.
The CLVX button.
Thank you, Trevor. I will have some additional. I like that he was testing that with music software, and that's exactly where I want to use something like this.
Yeah, and the fact that he was talking about Premiere and Illustrator, and those are the types of things that'll have that I would expect them to use more heavy gesture type stuff as well.
And he's obviously a gamer from the sign. The warning, I may yell at games once in a while.
Indeed.
That would be the first appeal for some. Although I don't think a lot of gamers are big on trackpads.
Yeah,
Maybe.
they're not. And I remember one of the early experiences with a trackpad was something that might have even been my mom who was having problems with it. She had a laptop that had the trackpad below the keyboard. And as she was typing, she would say that it was just in the middle of, she'd be typing a whole page of something and just, she would find that it was just randomly jumped somewhere in the middle and, 10 sentences ago. So she had to figure out exactly what all happened. And it just turns out she just kept tapping it with her palm, when she was trying to just type. She would accidentally tap or get too close even, and it would register on the trackpad and, put her in the wrong place. So, tried disabling it or whatever. Way back then we were having problems with the machine, couldn't even disable the trackpad. So I just got a low-tech solution and I just taped a freaking index card over it because she never, if she ever needed it, she'd lift it up and use it, but she hated using it. She wanted to use the mouse, but she didn't want to keep tapping it. And with that there, it just, stopped it from registering and it was fine.
See, and ironically, my mom's the opposite. She loves that trackpad and hates the mouse. And every time she wants me to fix her computer, there's no mouse, and I have to use the damn trackpad to fix the computer.
Mhm.
But yeah, those early laptops that first came out with the trackpads, that was a
Yeah.
real common problem that got better as the generations of trackpads and the manufacturers realized like this was a common problem and kind of adjusted it.
One of my favorite
But
early ones was a laptop that had a breakaway trackball, and it was tiny. It might have even been like a compact or something way back when, but
Lenovo, I think, at one
could also
point,
be, yeah. Mhm.
before they did the stick, they had a little side trackball that
Yep. It
you
was
could
like just a
clip
thumb
on.
little, yeah, like a little marble. And then it would just break away, where, whatever connection they had it on the side there, it would just, you could just snap it right off and it would just be good. But that one was fun because you could just hop, you slap it on there and you're good. You don't have to have desk space for it. That was kind of, I guess, where I started getting used to the, the thumb trackpad or ball that we use here. Because once I got used to that, I mean, I'm not a fan of using a regular mouse anymore, but I had to get used to going to anybody's desk and using whatever they had. And people had all kinds
Yeah.
of stuff, the big ball, the big marble trackball with the big marble in the middle. That one I could see being good for trying to get high precision, graphics and Photoshop stuff or whatever. But this one I like just for ease of use and the fact that you don't have to find space for it, and the fact that, I mean, for me, I can just hold it in my hand while I'm using it. So I can just float wherever and armrest of a chair or on my leg or whatever. Don't have to worry about finding a space for the mouse.
Well, that's always why I like the trackpads, because when you have multiple computers and multiple keyboards and space becomes limited, the trackball has always been like the best solution for my situation. But I'm kind of like him with my main computers. I have the keyboard, I have both a trackball and a mouse. And depending on what I'm doing, sometimes I'm using the mouse and sometimes I'm using the trackball. A
Yeah, because
keyboard like this,
each has its place for sure.
yeah, a keyboard like this with a trackball and a mouse for me, I think would be a great combination.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. And I like the fact that, like you said, that he's, getting good response from them in terms of his beta testing, being able to give them feedback and being able to get, get actual response and actual, updates that, could be fixing some of the problems right on the fly. That's excellent.
Yeah, I think he's a great tester for them to have. I hope they're hooking him up.
Absolutely.
Awesome review, Trevor. Thank you for showing me that I might actually like a trackpad. Impressive.
Stealth trackpad too. Like somebody just walks up, they don't see it. They just see a keyboard, right?
Yeah. And I can see that eventually, if it works real good, getting incorporated into future laptops.
Mhm.
I could see Apple like jumping all over that technology and saying, we got to do this.
Indeed.
So now we're going to slide over to the guitar and
EBow time.
some guitar toys that one that's old and one that's new. But e- even though the EBow's been around for a while, I, you don't really see a lot of guitarists out there who show it off, who shine with it. I'm trying to think of any guitarist who has utilized it in a big way in a hit song. Can you think of any?
Not really. I mean, you can always pick, one where somebody used an actual bow, like a horsehair bow on a
Yeah.
guitar. But the EBow itself, and that's the thing, is some of it comes down to, which hopefully in this video, I think he mentions that he was using it wrong when he first, got it and, figured out how it should be being used. And that's the question is, what is the wrong way to use an EBow and what is the right way? So that would be interesting to see, because it could be that anybody we've been watching isn't necessarily using it right. But the question is also what you're trying to get out of it, right? Like my thought is you're trying to get the sound of strings on, on your instrument, where you're trying to get those gentle rises where you come from very quiet and you very slowly build up, or, the ones where you can get a very, very long sustained note because you're doing a long draw with the bow, for example. The EBow, you can mimic all of that, but it's a question of if you're trying to mimic those orchestral type sounds or trying to make new sounds, whatever you can make with the thing, or are you trying to do a specific technique? That's the question.
Yeah, I'd be curious if how well it works, say, with a MIDI guitar. Those MIDI guitars we looked at a couple weeks ago.
Sure.
That would make for an interesting combination because if you get the bow effect and you're going, say, to a string sound or a cello sound on a synth, you could really get some cool MIDI expression going there.
Yeah, and I think that's where distance to the string comes in. So that's where, as far as the usage would go, if you're coming from far away and just, it's barely making any sound or it's not making any sound yet, and that as you come in very slowly, it builds, because you're starting to get that going.
Oh, and you need, the wrong way would be to strum the guitar with it as if it were a big fat pick.
But if it's a bass, you can slap it. That's okay. Slapping the bass. It's allowed.
Slap your bass up.
Always
so this one's coming from at JS Pedals. Pedals,
JS,
right? Another freshie with emphasis on pedals, and he's got a bunch of videos on different pedal reviews. We have a pedal night coming. We definitely have to have and actually, I would like to split that up between like hardware pedals and, these new VST pedals and cover both ends of that spectrum.
Yeah, exactly.
But for this one, he's going to take a look at how to use an EBow properly, the right way, because he was not when he got it.
Nice.
You use it like this?
Yes.
Is that how you're supposed to use it?
I don't know.
Oh my god. I'm a broken man. I've been using an EBow wrong for 20 or 25 years. When Stu G was here to film his 5 pedals episode, he pulled out the EBow, which was core to his sound, and he started using it, and something happened. My mind was blown because I realized in an instant, oh my god, I've done it wrong, and that's why it's been so difficult. So, for your enjoyment, here's a video of me in real time having a meltdown, realizing I'm an idiot. Did it die?
I'm wondering.
This probably had the battery in it for 6 years.
Do you have us another one?
Yeah.
Just in case, but that. Sorry, I licked it.
Oh, no, you're fine.
You can sell that
I
now.
hope the camera was rolling.
Oh, it was secure. You see the words. We'll give that away at the end of the show. Stu G like this.
You could clone him.
There we go.
Alright, you're doing the EBow arpeggio thing that no one does, and that I vividly remember hearing on the EBow cassette tape,
Yes.
which shows some age and how old the EBow is.
Congratulations on your purchase of the EBow and welcome to the world of direct string synthesis. Each string is amplified instantly as the EBow passes over. Cross quickly.
Do this, I gotta see
Okay,
this.
so
Show me up close.
the first thing, and it's different on every guitar, is where the hot spot is.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, we get it. So it's vibrating, and then so there's the hotspot.
So you're putting that magnet right over that pickup.
Yeah,
to
and
a
it's like
hotspot.
yeah. Right, so you can hear that.
I've never even thought to do that.
Right, yeah.
That's an effect.
Yeah. But you can hear where it gets really hot, right?
I've used an EBow for like 80 years. I've done one thing with it.
So you basically just hover it over the hotspot and lightly, so you're not kind of playing notes with it, but you're kind of like you're letting the hotspot ring out.
I can't believe I've never done this. Let me try it.
Yeah.
Okay, so neck pickup.
Yeah.
I've never done that. That is so insane how cool that is. It's a bow.
Yeah. It's an electric bow.
I feel like I need to go back in time and redo every guitar thing I've ever tried this with. Just for that. Because I would do a lot of like... I always loved the like letting a drone and like looping it out with a DO4.
Yeah.
Okay, so you make a chord, right? Is that what you're doing?
Yes.
So here's my chord.
Yeah.
Just some E minor thing. All right.
Yeah.
Find the hotspot. That's harder than it looks.
I think you need to move this up a little bit.
Oh, like get it on a different string?
So I have it the other way around. I use it the other way around.
You use it like this?
Yes.
Have I used an EBow upside down my... I've always done this! Oh my god!
I don't know.
This is insane.
I mean,
is that how you're supposed to use it?
I don't know. It sort of fits in the palm, but so the hot. So you.
That makes so much more sense. I'm a broken man. Okay.
So now.
I have used an EBow backwards my whole life. Right?
I guess
it makes more sense this way, but my broken small mind bought one and went.
Well, still works.
Yeah, but this actually feels so much, and the LED makes more sense.
Right.
It has the LED, which actually would shine, and you can kind of learn your hotspot. Unbelievable. Like, completely unbelievable.
Yeah, the other thing with an EBow is that if you roll the treble off, you know, you get more of a fluty cello.
Do you see me do that? I'm just like... So cool. I can't get over this. Yeah. Yeah, it's really different with the tone control.
It's great.
I learned a lot just now. I think I've owned 10, 8 to 10. They break, they fall.
They do.
And the human stance, and me, I'm taller, so it's worse.
Right.
But like even the normal human, like you, height, that's the perfect distance to shatter this material.
Yeah.
So at my height, you're just screwed instantly. Like if you drop it, it's like.
Yeah.
I've had glass slides last longer than EBows.
Oh well, yeah. We used to do a song called Obsession.
Yeah.
And I'd start that whole song on EBow, and then I'd need to like bridge pick up, full on.
Oh, so you're like complete
ran out
change. Like tone control,
our
pick
tech
up, yeah.
used to come and catch it in front of the microphone. We just made it a thing.
Yeah, there's a clip on YouTube. It's a Pearl Jam record called Yield. Eddie Vedder actually is playing the EBow part, which is weird. He like started playing guitar in those eras. In the video, he just throws it. Yeah, I remember like having no money and like I was like, what? But it's Eddie Vedder, you know. Do they have like a truck of EBows in the back? I love that your guys just made it.
He just 2 hands.
You should have had like a little basket, like a woven.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's it. After 25 years, I now know how to properly use an EBow. Hope you enjoyed that. I'm going to give away this Duracell. It is licked by Stu G. It says so on it. This was used during the episode and he tested it with his tongue, which I'm not man enough to do. So in the description, there is a link. Just click it to possibly win the Stu G licked Duracell 9-volt. I don't know what good it is. It's just a weird keepsake. You could possibly clone him with the leftover remnants of DNA left on the battery. Anyway, hit like if you like this and subscribe. If you like these shorter, kind of strange little episode formats like this, let us know. Bye.
Oh, these shorter episode formats are right up our alley.
Perfect. And yeah, that's the way to test the 9-volt for sure.
And they turned a Duracell into a collector's item.
Exactly. But yeah, his mind was definitely blown. And that's the thing is I've never had an EBow. So, I mean, that's one where when I picked it up, who knows, which way feels like it's the right way to use it. And going from a cassette tape back then, I mean, you just do, you're following what they say. You take the thing and you hold it over here and you do the thing. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, they did show some examples of it being used on stage.
And I love the, I do love the guy to catch it. that would be me, like the stage tag, like, hey, right between this song and this song, I'm gonna like be doing this, and I gotta drop that, so I'll be there to catch it, no problem.
And Uni reminded me, Cliffs of Dover did have some of those kind of sounds in it.
Yep, like little sweep arpeggio type stuff, yeah.
Yep.
And some droning, getting that EBow type of sound like he was getting with that for sure.
Yeah, I like the sound of it. It feels like, an orchestral string section kind of warming up, tuning up, and it has a very ambient kind of sound that I could have a lot of fun with.
My guess would also be it would be even more fun to take it into like an open tuning type of thing where, instead of having to hold certain chord shapes, you could take it to like dadgad tuning or whatever, where you can just play all, just bar anywhere and just it makes a really nice chord right there by itself. So you don't have to do anything fancy and it frees up all the other fingers to do other things and do melody lines and whatever around that very easy chord shape that you're now holding.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. Like with creative tuning, you could really experiment with that.
Indeed. It'd be awesome.
I hope it doesn't take me 25 years to learn, but hey, he eventually did.
That's one I'll ask Joey next time I see him. He probably has one sitting around somewhere.
So at JHS Pedals over on YouTube, another freshie. Welcome to our subscribers list.
Indeed.
We will be back for pedal night for sure. I already see a couple pedals in his video list that I want to check out.
The Dread Box.
Yeah.
I like the name.
So we're going to shift to acoustic technology, and this is a new invention coming from ToneBar. And over on YouTube, it is at Dennis-CJ1JY. He's the inventor of it. What he's going to do here is he's going to explain what it is, what it does, and give a little example at the end of, the benefits that it can do. And for acoustic technology, or an approach to modifying an acoustic, this is a really interesting idea.
Yeah, and in that picture, that second one there, that is the one that I saw. Just all I saw was like the the thumbnail for this video for that one right there, basically showing what the ToneBar looks like right there. And this is what I was thinking was a very good idea for getting acoustic sound going in.
He's got a lot of guitarist attention, because since he started putting these out, his channel blew up, because there's a lot of interest in this approach. The cool thing, go visit his channel. He's got different examples of different guitars that he has modified and what they do, and it's worth checking them out to see, like, you know, Epiphones, nice and highly modifiable, and there's a couple of them in there that he shows off.
One of my friends is actually in the process of getting a kit for a Telecaster. He wants to build a guitar from scratch, like, whole thing, not scratch, but building it from a kit, but putting it all together himself essentially. And he got a Telecaster one, and he's got to carve the headstock and do some other things to it, but he wants to do all of that like himself. He wants to make it all black and like get it all nice. So he's a little project guitar going on. So like it's it's fun, and it's good to get to that point where you're comfortable enough with the instruments to actually start looking at, whether it's taking them apart or you're replacing little parts to make little upgrades, things like I said, the bridge, the nut, things like that can be good for acoustic guitars. But this looks very interesting. And as you said, it totally changes the way you string the guitar as well, it looks like. So that's going to change
it's a slightly different approach. So it takes some adjustment, but for all you do-it-yourself guitarists out there who want to like mod and play around with the instrument and see what you can do, this is right up your alley.
Indeed. Let's check it out.
Breakthrough in it. Throw away those bridge pins. ToneBar. Better contact.
Right. That looks like the prototype.
There we go. Had to switch the video.
Ah.
Hi, and welcome to the ToneBar channel. I don't know what I said in my last video where I put in there breakthrough in a acoustic guitar tone, which is the truth. But since that video a week ago, that video plus the other two I put on there have got 11,000 views. I went from 30 subscribers to 139 subscribers. Thanks to y'all. Thank you. Everybody there's a lot of people buying these. I'm shipping them out. They're going out on a daily basis. Thank you, thank you, thank you. But you didn't come here to hear me. You didn't come here to see me talk. You come here for what I have to tell you. Now we're going back to these models again. And we're just going to go. The other video that I had, it kind of shut off at the end because I had a little mishap and I couldn't do it. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go through these little models one at a time. Start at the beginning. This is what you have now. You have a bridge. I'll hold it steady as I can. That's what pins look like in your guitar with bridge pins. Okay, that's what your guitar looks like now. There's the saddle. There's the hole for the saddle. Now we're going to lift it up. That's what your guitar looks like with pins in it. They're just barely touching the edge of the bridge plate. This right here is the bridge plate. It's barely touching. The pins are just wedging the strings in there. Okay. I hope I held that still enough for you for. All right, now here is a bridge One of the pins fell out. Since I don't need pins no more, I got a whole bunch of them. How about that? All right, so there's your bridge. That's underneath. That's a typical bridge. Two of them fell out. That's a typical bridge. This bridge here has a hole for a pickup. So if you have an under the saddle pickup, I've had a lot of questions about this. People have been asking me, well, does it affect the pickup underneath of it? And the answer is no. I've put, probably 10 tone bars and 10 guitars with pickups on this end. Some of them are on this end, and a few of them had the hole in the middle. Now, this is where the hole, that's the saddle route, and then the hole is just drilled at the end of the saddle route. See that? That's one piece of wire. So that's where your saddle comes out of the bottom. It hooks to your pickup. And as you see, the tone bar doesn't even get anywhere close to the pickup wire. See, the tone bar's here in the middle of the pins. The tone bar's in the middle of the pins, and you got this much difference, probably a ½ inch. But you can see that right there, about a ½ inch from the edge where the tone bar is. So the tone bar, and again, on that earlier model I showed you, I drew around the ball ends that I had in here and highlighted them. And that's the only contact area that you're getting with your strings. Now you take the pins out, and you're getting and put a tone bar in there, and you're getting all this contact area, all along this edge here. Okay, all along the flat part of the bridge plate, you're getting full contact. All right, so you take the pins out. And then you get this. This is what a tone bar looks like when it's installed in your guitar. Now, you'll notice the space on the end of the ball end is the same amount of distance as the space between them. And also, here's another hole for a pickup. See, I'll usually put the wing toward the back, and then that completely eliminates the possibility that it would get interfere with, but you'll know all that during installation. Now, that's what it looks like. That's a tone bar that's been installed. The tone bar is lighter, weighs less than a set of typical pins. This weighs 2.5 grams. Okay, pins weigh 3 1/4 and up. Okay, so the method of putting strings on your guitars has not changed in 180 years until now. Everybody's been using pins, but this is something new, and yes, it's a piece of brass. Yes, you could probably do it at home, but I have the perfect material, the perfect dimension, and I've made this into an easy product to use. Anybody can install this. I'm gonna show you, but all you got to do is bend one end up, bend that end up to 90, and it keeps the strings from falling out. This tone bar has a purpose. These two ends, here and here, give this end strength. It gives you something to hold on to when you're putting it in. Yeah, it would be like that. It gives you something to hold on to when you're putting it in. And the strings just barely slide over it's like a thousandths or a couple thousand smaller. So the contact is there and gives you something to hold on to. When you get it in there, you can flip it back or flip it up, and it gives you the opportunity, if you have an acoustic pickup on it, to use it as a ground. You can put a ground wire on that. Okay, we're going to show you the little simple installation thing. Here is our body again. The video cut out, and I had a mishap on the end of the video, so we're going to start over again. Here's your tone bar. You've got all your strings on there, and you've bent that end up to 90. I hope you can see that. Then you just take it in your hand like I just showed you, and you got all your strings there, and you just pull it up so you can see underneath here. You can see underneath here. So you just pull it up through like a ponytail. And really, you can just kind of let it go, but then you put your hand up in here, like so. And all the strings just kind of line up because they're getting funneled through that hole. And then the trick is to just make sure all your ball ends are in the middle of the pinhole, and then you just pull it up tight. See that? You just pull it up tight. It looks like it needs to go over a little bit. Getting the tone bar properly in the middle it's not a big deal. There we go. Can you see that? And now you're getting all 6 strings pulling up on the guitar, and once you hit a note, it makes the top vibrate. Some updates. The last guy that emailed me, he says, my hand, when I play, he goes, it tingles my hand. The top of the guitar makes my hands tingle. He goes, it never did that before. Look at the feedback on eBay. What people say about the tone bar on eBay. All the feedback. Must-have guitar accessory. It's the method and the system of which you're putting your strings on that makes the difference. Every guitar is different. Every guitar has its own tone because they all have the different woods, and that's just the way it is. But I want to thank everybody that's bought one in the last week. I'm telling you, 1 week. 11,000 views. That's ridiculous, but that's perfect. I knew this was gonna. I was hoping this would happen because it's so simple, it's so effective, and I've made it so that everybody can access it. It's only $9, free shipping. So I've not had one. The only negative things that anybody said is the people that don't have it and didn't think of it. And that's it, and that's what the haters are. So I'm gonna play my guitar. So this is all information I have. Hang on just a second. That's basically the end of the presentation. But I'll leave you with this. You know, how does the sunset work? How's the rainbow work? How's a positive track rear end on a Plymouth work? How does the tone bar work? It just does. So get one. I'm shipping them out. There's the microphone up here. That's the thinnest pick. That's a 46 millimeter Dunlop. The tone bar makes your guitar vibrate. It makes the notes clearer. You can almost feel the guitar breathing. You know, when the guitar's humming, whatever chord you play, if it's in tune, it's humming. You can hum along with it. Okay, so all you DIY guys, you knock yourself out. You know, go to Harbor Freight and see if you can do this. That's all I can tell you. Ain't happening. Ain't happening. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. The fact that you know, my new invention and patent has inspired you to get off your mom's couch and go out in the garage and make one for yourself. Hey man, I'm all for it. Go for it. Thank you, and they're coming your way soon. And watch for this new feedback from this surge I've had. I've sold 60 or 70 of them in the last week. This new surge is going to be everybody that's bought one that watched that's 3,000, this 11,000 view video. They're going to be posting what they say. I'm not going to say it. They're going to say it. Real customers. All those feedbacks on eBay are from real customers. Not one person has said this is stupid. I'm finished with this. I should have done this video a half an hour ago. But a half an hour ago, I got a call from a guy in California that don't even have one yet, and said, "Dude, I want to speak to the inventor." And I spoke to him. We had a great conversation. Man, he's a steel player from California, and I'm not going to dox him out of where he lives at. He's out there on the West Coast, and that's a beautiful place to be. But he was a sweetheart, and I've played a lot of music with old guys like that, and man, they are fountains of wisdom and bottles of encouragement, and that's what I get from all these views that I got is encouragement. I'm not crazy, and I hope to bring you more content. If you want to, in the comments, what do you want, more repair videos, or this is all about the tone bar? I'm telling you, this is ToneBar all the time, every day. So that's what we're dealing with here, is you get better contact with a ToneBar. It's simple, it's effective, and it's $9, and you get them about as fast as a letter. So thank you again to everybody that's bought one, everybody that's looked. You know, only 6% of people that look at them on YouTube buy one. So if I had 11,000 orders, I'd be behind. But thank you anyway. There's what you're getting. You're getting a tone bar. You're getting a tone bar to make your acoustic guitar sound better. And the method hadn't changed in 180 years. And thank you for watching, and have a great day, and hope to be sending you one soon. Thank you.
Oh, and thank you, Dennis, for your ingenious mind there. So simple, cost effective, and sound effective.
Yeah, and I mean, I always look at those bridge pins like, that's really the best way to do this. It just doesn't feel like it, you know.
Well, he did put some thought into the whole design and approach.
Yeah,
I
the bridge
love
pins
it.
that are usually used, they only do enforce contact in that one spot, and to me, they kind of also deaden the sound. Where this seems like it lets the sound ring out more, and it vibrates that whole bar to make sure you've got good contact and good sound. I like it. Very good idea.
Yeah, I'm very glad to see it's blowing up and he's getting the kind of response he's getting. That's very promising, and the future of acoustics are in good hands there.
Yeah, and it's a great idea, like you said.
Special thanks to Ange there on that one.
Nice.
Slick little girl watching out for us.
Very cool.
Now to the toy that I've been looking forward to look at more. This is 21st century music approach, and I mean, keep in mind it's early generation, but I can't wait to see where this begins to go and develop, especially now that you're looking at the what's that Elon Musk link, the Neuro
Neuralink.
link.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, you take ideas like this with ideas like that, and who knows how we could be making music 10 years from now.
Yep. Awesome.
Yeah, and go figure. This is coming from one of the top YouTube channels that we've been following, Andrew Hong. Awesome channel, just for everything about music, whether it's gear or whether it's theory or just approach dealing with it. He's a force on YouTube.
Mhm.
He's
Very
at
cool.
Andrew Hong over on 2.37 million. You go, boy. and
Nice.
he mentions here he's partially deaf musician from Toronto. We watched a video a few months back where he explained what he was dealing with, and he's such a hardcore musician that he's dealing with it, and he's found creative ways to adjust when you love music, but your ears are fighting you to make it.
Right. It's got to be frustrating for sure.
Yeah, and what interested me with this kind of technology is can you imagine, like, say a musician who lost their hands, or arthritis kicked in, and if this kind of technology develops, it's possible that you could get back your hands. Not to say it's there now, but you gotta
It starts
what do they
somewhere, yeah.
say? You gotta crack a few eggs before you can make an omelet.
Well, in this case, it's more, yeah, like you said, it's about the technology improving and getting better and better and allowing it to read certain small triggers. Then they can start reading multiple triggers and then be able to, read patterns and be able to do more sophisticated movements by having, better recognition of the patterns that you're thinking of at those speeds. And that's the question, is if they can get those kinds of speeds and that kind of reactivity from devices like that, it's going to be awesome.
Yeah. And what's cool here is that he's got one of the techs, the developers of it, showing it to him, and you get some insight into the way it works and how to get it to react to you. So you pay close attention to her suggestions. He does, and it's magical to see how it can react to you.
Nice. Let's check it out.
The headband that lets my brain control music gear.
Hey, it's Andrew Huang, and I got Meili Todd in the studio today. You use your brain to control musical things.
Absolutely, I do, yes.
Among like so many other weird and wonderful things that you do. But today we're gonna experiment with, I'm gonna try this headband out that reads my brain waves, and then we'll use the brain waves to control synths and stuff and play with music with our brains.
Yes, I'm stoked. So I'm gonna take this off my head. This is a Muse headband, actually made by a Canadian company called Interaxum.
Canada.
Canada, what's up? And then we'll get these contacts to your skin. That's what we want in life.
If we find out there's nothing happening here, it won't be the most surprising thing.
So actually, if you look at the screen,
hey,
there we go. we have 5 brainwaves altogether. So what's happening here is we're using the Muse headband to read your brainwaves, and then that information is going into my phone, into an app called Mind Monitor, which then is going into Ableton through a bunch of third-party apps and through like Max for Live. Just raw information doesn't sound the best, so you absolutely have to put it through a scale.
Yeah.
Like the universe doesn't really know like Western music, so be sure to put it in a scale or it's gonna be a lot of noise coming at you.
Are you turning each different brainwave into note information, basically?
Absolutely. Just assigning certain aspects of the headband to these ports here and then putting them into MIDI channels. And then each MIDI channel has its own scale. And then also running some of that information through the JU06 here, because sometimes it's fun to be like, shaka-daka-daka-daka-daka.
What's the vertical axis of this graph here?
First of all, I'm not a scientist at all, so please, I'm just an eccentric artist. I guess we measure it by
like, I mean,
hertz.
more hertz is
Yeah.
more oscillations.
Yeah, right? So like, shaka-daka-daka-daka-daka,
Yeah.
shaka-daka, Shakira,
Wow.
Shakira, Shakira.
Cool. What is a
I'm
brainwave?
not a scientist, guys! So now let's try to relax. Let's try relaxation. I want you to like close your eyes, breathe in through your nose, out of your mouth. Good, this is your beta. So this is focused, sustained attention. And this is one's riding at the top now. So you're breathing in through your nose and exhale out through your mouth.
It's funny because like, I do feel like I'm relaxing myself, but I also have so much excitement about what we're
I
doing,
know.
and it's
the
like,
camera spiked because
Yeah.
of
wow,
that camera's at the top.
wow, that's cool. I'd love to solo one brainwave, like whichever one you think would be easiest to control, because I think it would be so funny if I were able to like make the note go higher and lower.
Ooh, yeah, that's
at
fun.
will.
Do you want to try gamma? Because it's the most active, and you're quite
Yeah.
active.
What if I read a book? So this is my book. That was a self-promotion
Yeah,
joke.
there you
I
go.
feel like I need to
Wow.
read something super technical where I'm like really having to think about.
Let's do math. Do we have like?
Let's do some math. Yeah.
Here we go.
Mental math time.
5 plus 5.
Yeah.
Now add 20.
Uh huh.
Now add 6.
Uh huh.
Now add 15.
Yeah.
Now add 74. Now add 5. Add 12. Minus 75. Now add 30. Add 10. Now minus 75. Add 6. Add 6. Add 20. Now add 75. Minus 75. Plus 7. Plus 5.
All right, definitely lost it there. I feel like it got to this like simmery place.
It's cool.
It did feel like the soundtrack to like a game show where people have to do math.
Do you need to call someone to stress you out or something? We'll just see what you have to like taxes you have to do that are overdue or anything?
Yeah, how are we gonna stress me out?
Okay, can you sit on the chair and have a relax?
Okay.
And then I guess you would like close your eyes and relax, and you won't know where I'm coming from, okay?
Okay.
And then I'll stress you out, and I can't tell you how. Your car is here? Does that work? I think you anticipated that one, but something happened.
Do we want to try connecting it to Big Synth over here?
Hell yeah.
Hey, if you're a music producer, check out today's sponsor, Tracklib. It's an online record store for sampling with over 100,000 real songs from all decades and genres that you can use in your productions. It's easy to find loops and parts to sample because the interface has a built-in looper and beat player. Tracklib samples have been used in hits by huge artists like Drake, Kendrick Lamar, and J. Cole. Tracklib also just launched Sounds, a huge royalty-free library of sounds that you can use in your productions, covering pretty much anything you might need. Sign up for a free trial with the link in the description and you'll get 100 download credits, which is double the amount of the normal trial. Check it out. All right, we're trying to set up now for Maylee's MIDI outs to go to my modular. I'm gonna see if I can like choose between a kick drum and a snare drum.
Cool.
See if that's funny. Right now I'm taking 4 waves, mixing them together just so that like the more activity there is, the more it'll all combine and it's all turning into one control voltage signal. So I feel like if we get the right range, they'll be active. Okay, so this is just like our kick drum sound.
Yeah, nice.
And that's a snare sound or clap
Yeah.
sound. It's gonna always trigger at this rate, but I'm trying to like use my mind to control
The
which
clap
one it's
and
gonna
the-
be.
Oh, really? Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Yeah.
But I don't know if it's gonna be possible. So if I relax enough, will it change?
This is wild.
I mean, we could just connect it to just a straight up oscillator and see how that like
Cool.
wibbles around. What happens if we turn off the scale now?
Okay, yeah, let's get that going.
Like, would it just be like all over the place?
Probably. Let's mute all these jammers and see what's good. It's gonna get wacky doodle.
Yeah, so it's just like sending the wave all around, but I'm gonna, I don't know, use the different waves to modulate the other waves.
You look like you should be in Hackers right now. Acid burn, you know what I'm saying? What's up, Angelina Jolie?
I think it's just like pinned really high now.
Yeah,
So
right.
if I chill, will it come back down? That's nuts.
Whoa,
That's nuts.
whoa.
And I'm like really excited. So
Yeah,
it's like
it's up.
high,
It's
like
fine.
beyond the range of hearing, but I can bring it back down. Yeah. I
Wow.
can totally do it. For the purposes of like demonstrating this, it makes sense to use this really basic sound where it's like, yes, we can hear that the thing is happening.
Right.
I think now we'll just try and patch something where like we just plug these waves into all kinds of different stuff.
Cool.
But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's just waves, you know?
just
So
waves.
you can send them to whatever you want. Okay, we're starting to get weird.
Yeah. With the little mice eating little tinies of cheeses in the haystack. Yum, 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 yum. This is what the future looks like.
Delay. We'll control the delay, obviously, with our waves.
If you're gonna meditate, this is how you're gonna meditate. We're gonna listen to this, have your tea.
This is the exact kind of stuff that people give modular a bad rap for, and I'm not helping.
What are they talking about? This is gold. So the album for Relaxation is for purchase out on Friday. You're gonna go right to bed. If this was a music fest that had this type of music, what would the festival be called?
Swamp Bottom.
Swamp Bottom.
You guys going to Swamp Bottom
Yeah.
later in the summer? There we go.
Whoa.
So to explain what I did, there's that. Oh, see, I started trying to explain stuff and like focusing. Now it's like high pitched. So I'm gonna explain this to you in a relaxed manner, so that pitch goes down.
Whoa!
So.
It's so stressful to try to do.
Oh my god. Okay. All the different waves. They're controlling the pitch of this oscillator. I'm firing this like really fast trigger, and it's controlling the probability that it will actually pass through to trigger the envelope. Like now it's not triggering it as much. And then it's also controlling the shape of that envelope, like it might be like snappy, it might be long. And then it's going into the granular and reverb. Oh, and the amount of distortion. Everything is being controlled by my brain.
Yeah,
Like,
wild.
the oscillator's just making a... Everything hurts!
It's my taxes!
Am I a good father?
I'm in a padded cell right now talking to a bunch of pillows.
It works.
It works.
All right, thanks for coming in the studio
All right,
today.
thanks so much.
Oh my God, I want one.
I want two. Give me two.
Well, what I love when I see that, when I see a musician like really get excited, and this actually triggers off the excitement,
Exactly.
and you know, having fun. Like, it did not take him long, especially when he started going into like his synth patches, the analog patch bay, and kind of picking the right synth waveforms to show how it was sensing him.
And using the multiple waves to all hit the same trigger also helped, because then by increasing activity overall or just decreasing overall, you get the bigger push on the signal to make it much higher, much lower. So he was getting much bigger swings or sweeps than he would have otherwise. Very cool.
Yeah, and towards the end when he's like, "Okay, I'm gonna do this to bring it down," and and it actually responded to him. I think that those developers of that are like giddy that they now have his attention, because his understanding of synths, you mix the right waveforms with a controller like this, and this is a whole new way of making music. We've seen stuff like this where like plants making music, and
Right.
they use sensors on different things to interpret heat. I don't know, but this gets right to the brain.
Exactly.
I, I
Listening to the
can't
brain.
I can't wait to see a decade or two from now, like where this goes.
Well, the other thing is that in what he was doing right there, basically controlling his brainwave state by seeing the feedback on a monitor, but also this way you're actually hearing it. So in that case, like, if you're watching TV and you're watching a video about something and it's making you mad, like your blood pressure is going up, like if you were attached to something like that, you would hear it, like everything would be getting more hectic and whatever. And then, to relax yourself and you bring it back down. So it is the kind of thing that could help you, maintain or not trigger a serious, breakdown. Like if you're getting something stressing you out a whole lot, you could have this little alarm go off to like let you know that you need to bring it on down.
And making music can be stressful enough on its own, but to have an instrument that actually feeds off of stress and relaxation, God, that might be a tough instrument to psychologically play.
Yeah, well, that's one of those things where, on any given day, are you in a place where you can properly play it? Because, you might be distracted today, you might be angry today, you might be sad today, whatever, you might be in a state where the instrument, you wouldn't be able to hide, your emotional state from the brainwaves, because your brain knows how you feel, whether whether you're trying to show it or not.
You know what would be really interesting? Those like dream research. Sometimes they'll like monitor people's brain waves while they sleep and things like that. This could become a tool in that kind of research. It'd be interesting to see like what your brain when you're sleeping might make for music. Dream music.
There you go. Dreamscapes.
Yeah.
And he's been trying that trombone, huh? Nice. I remember, I talked to one guy about trombone, about the, he was playing it on stage and I was, enjoying it. And the fact that there are no valves on it, and the fact that there's no, notes that you're hitting, it's all about how far away or how far away the bar is or how close it is. But the thing that surprised me was, rather than like the 7 notes of a scale being, from closer to you and getting further away, or from further away and getting closer, like either way would have been fine in my brain. But the fact that you go from like close, far, close, farther, close, farther, and it's like you're going, you're moving from like, here, there, but the notes are just going da, 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 da. They're going up like that. So that seemed very strange to me, but I think that would be one of the, the tricks to being able to get a trombone working, is figuring out where those spots are, where you're getting the right notes. And again, for each of those notes, you have to be giving the right amount of pressure that you're pushing through in order to get this note versus the octave higher, which would just be blowing harder, trying to get more air pushed through faster.
Yeah, and get used to the slide approach. That definitely requires it.
Yeah, and that's starting from close to you and then going away is a mirror. That's where you get that slide, the sad trombone sound.
Yeah, and that's the same kind of approach. I think something like this, you get this feels like it has a slide to it emotionally.
Absolutely. And it seems like the control would be not as instantaneous, like you're not playing, a complicated, classical piece, using something in control like this. But I could see it being good for something similar to like the EBow stuff, where you're getting atmospheric and you're getting things that are wrapping around each other sound wise and all that kind of thing. I could see that.
Well, and again, I would mix multiple controllers here. You take that, mix it with some hand gesturing gloves, and you might have a way of controlling where you're like a conductor, and your emotion. Tomorrow's like conductors could be actually utilizing stuff like this to trigger virtual orchestras.
Sure. And that again brings it to where, the person leading the orchestra is the one, that is playing the orchestra like an instrument. All of the other people who are playing their instruments, they're the leader is leading them all. So yeah.
I could finally become a conductor. It could open up conducting for everybody.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
So Andrew, at Andrew Hong, go visit this channel if you love music. He is one of the best. And that was so cool.
Mm-hmm.
And
Definitely,
speaking of cool,
out of the box for sure.
Yeah. And speaking of cool, when I heard this news about Luna coming to Windows, the only reason why I hadn't played with it before is because I could only do it in my Mac virtual machine, and virtual machines aren't the best place to be playing with musical software. You can. It's a good way to like try things out, but I
get
really
familiar
want
with the interface. Yeah.
Yeah, I really want to see this in action on my music machine. So like after the show, I'm on my way to get a copy because it's free.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And your connection can do it now.
Yeah. And one thing with this company, because this is developed by a hardware company, so it's kind of like Studio One. There's a hardware company behind this DAW. So the DAW is really best designed for the hardware that the company develops, but at the same time, it's a DAW, so it doesn't care whether you're using their hardware or not. It's the features that this has are equal to Logic and Pro Tools. And again, it's free.
I like that.
If you are on the Mac side and you haven't checked out Luna, you should, just to have options, because as cool as Logic is and Pro Tools, they're not perfect. They have their issues that would get in my way. Luna is a little more friendly with a lot of those issues, and much more friendly on the VST side, whereas Pro Tools likes their proprietary plugins. I like good VST support because that's my go-to when it comes to plugins.
Mm-hmm. Indeed, that's important.
Yep. So this one, Sanjay C on YouTube, not new for us. And again, one of the kings on YouTube when it comes to hardware reviews and what's going on in music. He is my news channel. That's why I had to pick him. I had like 7 or 8 channels that were talking about Luna coming to Windows, and good videos and reviews, but I trust Sanjay when it comes to the news.
Nice.
Like we said earlier, your sources.
Yep.
He's mine.
Gotta like the messenger too. Yep.
Yep. So he's going to mention a couple other things, but to start off here, he's going to, put the big news out there that Luna is finally ready for Windows, and I can't wait to see it in action.
All right. See that workflow.
Got to get the video. There.
That one.
There we go.
Artists, storytellers, beatmakers, these are the latest news, deals, and free plugins from the music production world. All right, some exciting news for music producers on Windows. Universal Audio has just released the Windows version of their analog-inspired DAW, Luna. This is a DAW I've used before in a couple of videos actually, and is definitely worth trying out. Luna was launched back in 2020 and has been exclusive to Mac users until now. Initially, you needed Universal Audio hardware to use it, but now it's free for everyone without that hardware. And if you join the open beta program, you can download it for free on Windows. This is a huge deal for all you PC users who have been waiting to get your hands on Luna. Now, let's talk about what makes Luna interesting. Universal Audio has followed the classic vintage mixing heritage for a while. This means with Luna, you get features like analog summing, tape machines, channel strips, and bus compression built right into the mixer. They've also included the Oxide tape plugin that adds some more character to your recordings. Of course, if you're into the Apollo interfaces world, you can use the DSP-powered plugins with Luna as well. Now, for my favorite thing about Luna, the included sounds. Luna includes a built-in instrument called Shape. Shape has a bunch of sampled sounds, everything from electric pianos to orchestral sounds, and they all really sound excellent. You should give Luna a try just to hear the sounds in Shape. Now, I do hope they improve the MIDI editing capabilities in Luna. I'm really used to the excellent MIDI tools from Ableton and Logic, and it was quite a learning curve getting used to MIDI in Luna. But I don't know, you might like it. Now, for those of you who switch between Mac and Windows frequently, you'll be happy to know that projects are compatible between both versions of Luna. However, there's a small catch. The Mac version supports AU plugins, while the Windows version uses VST3. This means plugin settings aren't compatible between the two for now, but Universal Audio says they're planning to add VST3 support to the Mac version to fix this soon. So if you haven't already, go join the open beta and download Luna for free, and let me know in the comments what you think about this new release. Are you excited to try Luna on Windows? Have you used it on Mac before? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Question of the week. If you could be a master or guru of one studio technique or piece of gear, what would it be? Maybe the machine? Maybe mastering? Let me know in the comments below. Next up, I think this is the most fun synth plugin ever made. It's called BuzzZone from a company called Toybox. This synth has a unique workflow that I find really inspiring, and I think it would be even more fun if you use it on an iPad. So let's check out what makes BuzzZone unique. All right, the interface is very simple, but don't let that fool you. One of my favorite features is the 9 powerful multi-segment envelopes. There's one for each of the 9 main controls, and they come with an intuitive auto curve function, making it incredibly easy to shape some sounds and movement. The interface is minimalist with all controls on a single screen. The design makes it quick to navigate so you can focus on creating without getting lost in lots of menus or other screens. So what you might lose with under the hood power and control, you kind of gain with fast inspiration, in my opinion. BuzzZone features analog modeling based on Eurorack modules and vintage synths. It gives you some routing options, some unusual filters, along with FM, AM, ring modulation, and wave folding. BuzzZone is selling at an intro price of $24 and comes with an extensive library of wavetables and samples. There's even a vocoder mode. You get over 400 presets, pads, drum hits, lots of stuff. So BuzzZone is available for Mac, Windows, and iOS, specifically for the iPad. And giving the focus on shaping envelopes, this would be great on a touchscreen. Unfortunately, there's no demo available, but you can try out BuzzZone's free sister app, Thump One, to get a taste of what it offers. Give Thump One a try because you'll get a sense of what I like so much about those envelopes. Link is below the video. Hey, if this video is interesting or useful, can you help me out by hitting the subscribe button? It's totally free and it would help me reach my 1 million subscriber goal. We're at 475,000 right now, and every click of the subscribe button helps me bring more content and value to you. Okay, so here's something I wasn't expecting. Arturia has released a plugin version of one of their hardware synths, the Mini Brute. Mini Brute V is not just an emulation of the original hardware, it adds more stuff like adjustable polyphony and keeps some of the original synth charm like the Steiner-Parker filter. One of the standout features of this new plugin is the added polyphony. So you can get the analog sound, but you can now create complex chord voicings and textures. This makes it great for creating pads and more intricate leads. You also get an effects rack featuring 4 effects slots and 17 effects types from reverb to distortion. It comes with 150 presets. It really excels at leads and basses, but I was actually surprised when I tried the pads. This takes what I knew about the Mini Brute and extends it. Now, the original hardware was designed with synth legend EBow, and it included unique things like the Steiner-Parker filter and metalizer. Mini Brute V, the software version, has those as well. And the Brute Factor is a must try. You can create everything from smooth distortion to some crazy feedback. Mini Brute V is available for an exclusive introductory price or as part of a bundle with the Arturia V Collection X until June 6, 2024. Links are below. Check out this new plugin. They dropped in a sample of someone sneezing, and it created a soundscape from it. If you're into unique cinematic soundscapes, this is Scaper from SampleSense. So yeah, drop in any audio. I find that it does really interesting stuff with vocals, but you can add anything in. And it starts creating soundscapes unique to that original audio. So it does this by using stretching engines that basically take things from the original audio content and, well, stretches them and then tops that with a particle generator. The soundscape it generates can go on and on and on, so you may be experimenting for a while before you find something you love. The pitch controls let you modify one of these stretched pieces of audio so you can kind of pitch it if you need to, and you can adjust the speed and the amount of particles. I think you might enjoy this if you really want some unique soundscapes, maybe for game soundtracks or film stuff. I wish they would offer a demo for this, but hey, $29 at the intro price isn't too bad. You can check it out using the link under this video or, hey, right here. Okay, Native Instruments is hard at work giving us a couple new releases. First is Low End Modular. This plugin was created by 10 Phantom Rooms. The creator has worked on sounds for over 500 movie trailers, so there's lots of expertise behind this plugin. Low End Modular brings the sounds of vintage and modern modular systems to your DAW. It's good for deep drones, pads, basses, and special effects. And the sounds were created from 200 sound sources. One of the key features is the ability to blend between 4 instrument layers. This gives you a lot of options for sound design. You can explore different sound sources that cover a wide range of modular styles. There are 163 presets available, and you can also use the randomization feature for some new ideas. Low-End Modular gives you hands-on control with macro controls and a step sequencer as well. This helps you add some depth and movement to your sounds. Low-End Modular is available for $79. That's the intro price. Now, even more interesting to me is their next release. It's a new session guitarist called Acoustic Sunburst Deluxe. As the name suggests, this is a sampled acoustic guitar instrument. You can play chords or create melodies with it. This one was sampled from a steel string jumbo guitar. If you're familiar with their session guitar series, you'll know what to expect. You can sound like you have a professional guitarist in the studio with you. Just play it on your keyboard or program some chords into your DAW. They've got a lot in this series now, but I really want more of their picked acoustic stuff. What do you think? More picked guitars, right? Okay, I've got some deals and a freebie for you, but first, a word from our sponsor, DistroKid. DistroKid is a simple and fast way to get your music onto Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube Music, pretty much everywhere. And DistroKid collects earnings for you when anyone plays or purchases your music. This is your chance to get your music heard. I've created 2 videos on DistroKid that will probably answer any questions you have. You can watch them right here, and if you're ready to sign up, use the link below to get 7% off your first year of membership. Okay, a few big deals you don't want to miss. First, this is the last week to get the freebie Ozone 11 Elements, free with any purchase from Plugin Boutique. And also, make sure you grab the Universal Audio Verve Analog Machines Essential freebie as well. If you're looking for something to buy at an excellent price right now from Plugin Boutique, Korg has their virtual instruments on sale, 50% off of anything. So you can get all the classic chord stuff, Triton, Poly 6, Micro Korg, or even the full collection 50% off. And that ends June 2. Another good deal is on Autotune stuff, just a few days to get Autotune 50% off. Also, it's your last few days to get Glitch Machine free with purchase from ADSR Sounds. If you need a mixer, Mackey's mixers have dropped in price. You can get the 6-channel mixer with USB $60 off. And this happens every now and then, but IK Multimedia Studio Synths are on sale as well. All these deals and freebies are linked below, or scan the code right here. Okay, we have a very special freebie today. It's from a member of our community. Tyler Locke, who's a viewer, a member of our community here, sent me a message a few months ago. He said that a video I made 3 years ago completely transformed his life. It set off his music journey that resulted in over 12 million plays on Spotify. And now he's created a lo-fi piano sample pack that he's giving away free to everyone, just as a thank you for this community that we've created. Please give thanks to Tyler in the comments of this video to show your support for him giving back to a community that gave him his first push into music. And of course, congratulations, Tyler, on the 12 million plays. All right, if you want to know all the best gear released at Superbooth 2024 this year, don't miss my last video right here. And you'll see the super expensive Korg synth. Yeah, they need to make a plug-in version of this thing. Keep making the music you love, and I'll see you soon.
Oh, Sanjay's gonna have me downloading a whole bunch of stuff tonight.
Blowing up your satellites over there.
Oh, and I didn't know that the Mackies are going on sale. Like, I've been wanting to get a second one. I have the 12 channel, but it would be awesome if I could have it on both sides of the room. And I think he just enticed me to finally do it.
No, what I was going to tell you about when we were talking about keyboards and trackballs and all that earlier was how much I would use in a situation like yours. I would use a switch box and, you know, like scroll up arrow, scroll down arrow to go from machine 1 to machine 2 to machine 3 to machine 4. So I'm using the same keyboard, mouse, and whatever. And it's just whatever, you know, whatever machine I'm looking at through the KVM is which one I'd be working on.
I used to do it
one for each.
Well, I used to do it that way when, like, I had multiple machines like right next to each other, and I was in a condensed area, and one mouse to rule them all there was useful. But since then, like, I'm more spread out across the room. I do a lot more remoting, so I can use the same mouse and keyboard if I'm remoting to the machine, and it becomes like a remote KVM in that case.
Yeah, exactly. Same idea where you're still just using, you know, your one main setup to basically control multiple boxes.
Yeah. But if I could consolidate the sound, is right now I have an audio that I want to hear here. I have an audio I want to hear there, and an audio I want to hear there. And those are 3 different music machines that if I could all route to one nice like headphone setup, and that's the dream.
And that's where something like that Mackie 6 that he was just talking about there would be perfect, where, you know, you could take each of those machines audio outs into a mixer and then just have that one mix go wherever you want it to, and be able to control each of the outputs directly.
Exactly. If I had a Mackie on this side and a Mackie on that side, and I've got a couple of Behringer rack mixers, I can consolidate all the signals that, hey, I'll even grab the other computers when I'm gaming. I would love to use the same headphones, and ideally if I can use a wireless headphone when I want, get a little peanut and be able to use like good headphones with a wireless, you know, receiver would be awesome. Then I wouldn't be tripping over my cables and stepping on them.
Yeah, for me, it's the rolling over with the chair that kills him. Roll over the wires of the chair with me on it. It's like, oh, nope, killed that one too.
Yep. That I got to give Sanjay like super props there. Everything that I was wondering about with Luna, he answered. Like that's
Yep.
why I love his channel and his news. He thinks like I do. Like the MIDI support, very curious to see how it works. I'm gonna be grabbing it. So me, it's all about MIDI, and the thing that keeps me from a lot of DAWs is whether the MIDI gets dumbed down. What I don't like on the Mac side, the like channel routing and everything that is a standard with MIDI and MIDI events tends to get dumbed down and hidden behind things or isn't even an option with like GarageBand and some of those. That's important to me. So like if it's not quite there yet, still going to try it out now, but that's going to be what prevents me from using it in like my normal workflow.
And even understanding the that what they were talking about with the difference between the VSTs and the AUs, and whether you're working on Mac or you're working on Windows, and the fact that a project would be fine to work in both, but for the VST and the AU stuff will be a little bit separate. Just understanding that also at the beginning can save somebody some frustration. But when they go, oh, Luna, Mac, Luna, Windows, I can here's a project, check it out. And, not understanding that there may be some limitations or things that you'd have to work around.
Well, at the moment though, like he said, I'm glad that their response is that they're working on the VST support to be cross-platform that way, because I love the idea of a DAW that is fluid between Mac and Windows, because I deal with musicians who are doing their things on the Mac side, and I want to be able to move projects back and forth. It's got to have VST support, so that way we can share the project as long as we got the same VSTs and do our thing. Reaper is the only, and Ableton. These are the three that have the cross-platform potential.
Yep.
If Luna gets that straightened out, they're going to be in great shape.
Yeah. And like I said, like even in the meantime, just knowing that, the VST or the AUs would be the sticking point, like you could still work with people in both and just say, okay, we'll just keep the tracks clean for the start and just, get to the point where you get the project to the right place and then figure out which side to do the VSTs on or AUs.
Yeah. And fortunately, a lot of the plugins that I depend on, I do have the AU and the VST, and I tend to install both because even on the Windows side, if you are playing around with Pro Tools or something that does support them, it doesn't hurt to have them available. The problem would be when you're taking the project over to the other operating system. If you were AU on that side, when you go to load the project, the DAW has to like say, hey, I don't have access to that AU plugin. Do you have a VST version of it?
Right. And that's the trick is, the controls for the two and how compatible the controls are is what they're probably working out on the back end.
Yeah. And how seamless when a user doesn't have the plugin. Fortunately with like Cakewalk, if I copied a project over to a different computer and I didn't have the plugin, Cakewalk will say, you don't have this plugin on this side. The track is rendered, so you will hear the effect that was rendered, but you can't edit this track. You can't adjust anything on that plugin because you don't have it. So as long as you don't need to use the plugin live, you can always use the rendered track and then take the project back over to the machine that you do have the plugin if you do need to adjust.
Exactly. Yeah. And then re-render. Yep.
Yeah. That's the key to working with different mixers, engineers, musicians, and not messing up the project in the process.
Exactly.
Yep. Great news. I'm going to be checking out his video on that expo, because they show some cool toys at those. I've got them in my bookmarks, a whole list.
There you go.
Thank you, Sanjay at Sanjay C over on YouTube. Awesome news resource for music.
Yeah, and like you said, answered all the right questions, asked the right questions, covered the right stuff with that for sure.
Yeah,
Love it.
yeah. He keeps up on the scene better than anyone.
Mm-hmm.
So
Excellent.
now to finish off, we're gonna ask a question that I have been asked myself. I've debated with people about, and there's no easy answer to this question, and there's no one answer. Your mileage is going to vary, and your scenario is going to dictate some of the answer here. But this is coming from one of our freshies. We had 4 tonight.
Nice.
Good night.
Progression.
Yep. At Progression SPOD. Progression Spot. Oh, Progressions Pod.
There you go.
It's a Progressions podcast. Conversations exploring creativity, productivity, and growth in the music industry. This definitely sounds like a channel for us.
Nice.
And what he's going to be asking here is mastering necessary, and I'm curious to see how he breaks this answer up, because it's not a one answer.
Exactly. Depends on the situation, largely.
Yeah, and for those out there who have gotten comfortable with utilizing a mastering service, or the BandLab mastering, that's good. It's good if you do have a solution in those cases. But one thing I like to encourage, at least the musicians who say they want to learn how to mix, they want to be more in control of their sound, is you're never going to learn if you use something that's automatic there, because these mastering services and these mastering plugins don't tend to show you what they're doing. They just do it. So if you do want to understand and get better at mixing, because you got to be a good mixer in order for a master to really sound good, it's good to try it out at least before you just throw it at Isotope or BandLab and depend on them for every one of your masters.
Right. Understanding the process, understanding why it does certain things, and even just appreciating the difference between what you had as your mixed version and what they give you as the mastered version. Understanding what those differences are and seeing if you can recreate that yourself. Like, okay, what if I didn't have them to master? Would I be able to get those same results myself through mastering?
Yeah. One thing I can see with Atmos kind of becoming a necessity thanks to iTunes, and Atmos mastering might be that like special exemption where, like, even if you are doing your mastering or you do use a mastering service, you might not necessarily get an Atmos master, so you might still have to run it through something else afterwards to post it to iTunes. And
Right.
the other sound platforms are going to start going in the same direction. Apple just kind of put the warning out there, like times are changing.
Sure. Got to be, working with it. Got to be ready for it.
Yep. So let's see if mastering is really dead.
The music tech industry has been taking aim at mastering engineers for years. With tools like Ozone, online platforms like Lander, and what seems to be daily advancements in AI, is the battle finally coming to an end? Is mastering dead? My name is Travis Ferentz, a Grammy-nominated recording engineer and mixer, and I started this show to help equip music professionals like yourself with the tools and mindsets you need to build a career in this business. Now, I might not be a household name like Manny or CLA, but I do make my living mixing records and have well over 250 million streams to my credit. And because I'm not one of those household names, and because I'm not mixing label projects every day, when it comes to mastering, budgets can vary wildly, and so my mixes are being mastered by a wide range of engineers. Now, I obviously have my preferences for favorite engineers, but I'm not always going to be involved in the decision. And over the last few years, I've noticed an increasing trend in just plain bad mastering. If a project is not done by one of the top mastering houses or by one of my preferred engineers, then it's starting to become more likely that I just don't really like the end result. And it's made me start to wonder, why does mastering seem like it's no longer playing the role that it once did? What's different about now? Well, for one, technology is different. And like I mentioned, the tools are being democratized. But that's not the only thing. It's also the perception of mastering in 2024. So if you're a musician wondering if mastering is necessary, or a mix engineer that feels like you just maybe want to start mastering your own mixes, I've got a few hot takes that I think you're going to want to hear. If you're a mastering engineer, probably currently hate me, but you're not going to feel that way at the end, trust me. Now, because I know there is at least one person asking what is mastering, and I also think the backstory is important to my point, here is the world's fastest breakdown of the history of audio mastering. If you want to skip ahead, there are chapter markers down below. So up until about 1948, recording was done in what was called direct-to-disc recording. The engineer would mic the band with a very limited number of inputs. That band would then balance themselves while playing live in the room because there were no overdubs and there were very few microphones. The engineer would then capture that recording, cutting it directly to vinyl with a lathe as the band played. This all began to change when Ampex released the Model 200 tape machine, which provided the ability to record to magnetic tape, resulting in an increase in sonic fidelity. And now, because that tape machine would never be a consumer playback device, that recording eventually had to make it back to the medium of choice at the time, which was vinyl. This was the advent of a new type of engineer called the transfer engineer, whose job would transform over the years to what we now think of as a mastering engineer. The transfer engineers would apply corrective EQ to a recording to be sure that the needle would not pop out of the record because of too much low end. They would also adjust levels to be sure that all the program material that needed to be fit on a side was able to do so. As technology progressed, so did the job of the mastering engineer. They began to take a more creative role in the process, adding dynamic processing and additional EQ to enhance the choices already made by the mixing engineer. Then, when digital came on the scene in the 80s, the increased headroom opened the door for masters to become louder and louder. And anybody that has ever listened to music knows that louder is always better. So with that in mind, every artist wanted their CD to be the loudest, most exciting CD on the desk of the local radio DJ. This was the dawn of the loudness wars, which would continue into the digital and streaming era, despite the fact that the DSPs employ loudness normalization. So that's how we got here. But where is here? Here is that unfortunately, the average musician's understanding of what mastering does is summed up into two words: louder, brighter. And while there may be a lot of truth to that statement, I think it's also the reason that there's a lot of lackluster mastering going around. And this is where technology comes into play. As I mentioned earlier, the tools of mastering are becoming more democratized by the day. A process that was once as analog as it could possibly be has become almost entirely digital, even for some of the top engineers. Emulations of high-end gear have become so good that people are selling their analog and going digital, and plugins like Isotope Ozone have gone from what a producer might throw on to make a rough mix to being the actual mastering processor for a final release. And then there's a whole new set of tools that I'm just gonna call algorithmic tone shapers, things like Golfoss, which are applying thousands of little EQ changes to a mix so that a frequency response more closely resembles some predetermined curve, for better or for worse. And so the increase of access to mastering grade tools, combined with this oversimplified assumption of what mastering is, I think is actually threatening to ruin mastering altogether. Why do I think that? I think that because we're defining what we will buy as mastering. We buy louder and we buy brighter. I can take Ozone 11, throw it on my mix bus and hit Master Assistant, and I will get something that is for sure louder and for sure brighter, but will it be better? Or would I consider it mastered? So far, in my experience, definitely not. And don't get me wrong, the individual tools within Ozone are amazing and I use them every day, but I've yet to hit that button and here's something I would consider keeping. I actually think it was more useful years ago when it did less. There'd always be like a couple dynamic EQ points I might keep, but now it sounds like an inexperienced mastering engineer that's just doing something because they think they have to. So what about the fully AI side of this? Before filming this video, I tossed a mix into Lander as well as the Waves online mastering platform. Both came back, you guessed it, louder and brighter. But neither came close to the human master that had been done previously. Now, all three were competitively loud. All three were brighter than the mix was, but the human master was changed thoughtfully. There was vocal clarity without harshness. There was a glue and like a life, but there was minimal compression or limiting artifacts. It's clear that the human master was done in support of what was already there. And that's what mastering is about. Mastering has never been about making changes. It's been about making the right changes. A transfer engineer in 1948 did not EQ the low end unless they had to. That's the spirit of mastering that engineers have carried for the last 80 years, and that's what should continue to carry for the next 80. Every step of the record-making process has always been, or should always be, about honoring the previous steps. Taking the vision of everybody that touched a project before you and supporting it. And that's why this technology-driven era of matching a specific EQ curve or doing something for the sake of doing something is, in my opinion, hurting mastering as a whole. So to answer the question, is mastering dead? Do you still need to pay for mastering? The answer is simple. If you are price shopping for the most economical way to make something louder and brighter, then to you, mastering is kind of dead. You can easily use a one-click mastering plugin or any AI platform and likely be satisfied. But if you're looking for one last collaborator, if you are willing to search for a mastering engineer that fits your sonic tastes and wants to support your vision, then to you, mastering is very much still alive and very much worth it. The more technology improves and continues to democratize, the more important each person's individual sonic taste is going to become. You'll be able to get a technically great mix or a master from plenty of people, or maybe even plenty of machines. But what is the X factor that makes a collaboration really click? That's what you should be looking for in a mastering engineer or for anybody that's going to work on your project. Because the reality is, what's happening in mastering at the moment is going to happen in every aspect of the music industry. The advancement of tools is going to even the playing field pretty much everywhere. The thing that will separate you from others in the industry is no longer going to be your specific skills. It's going to be your taste and your sonic identity. That's what we're ultimately going to all get hired for. And when you do get hired, if you feel like you're struggling to figure out what the best rate to charge for your services is, then you'll probably want to check out this video next.
So right, doing things, only make the changes that you need to make, and only make them when you need to make them. You want to leave it as much as you can. You want to leave it alone and just do what you can.
Yeah, and that was a great quick history of mastering throughout the different sound technologies, going from vinyl to tape, and thinking of it as like a transfer artist, which is what they were back then. That really has come back full circle, because the reason to master now would be for the platforms. Every platform has slightly different dynamics that you might take your final master and run it through a platform master, so that you have an iTunes version, you have a SoundCloud version, a BandLab version.
Exactly.
Now you're transferring for the platforms, not for the physical medium.
And in each case, though, you're looking for what it's going to sound like in the final result. Like, what is the end user, what is the consumer going to hear when they're listening on this platform versus that platform, and the differences there, and how it stacks up against other songs on that platform because they were mastered that way.
Yeah. And what I found interesting was in the 80s, when he mentioned, like, when we shifted to digital, the purpose there was to louder and clearer became a thing, because tape and vinyl warmth and digital didn't equal out. So how you had to adjust sound for the digital world required some of these changes. But then as you get into the 90s and 2000s, as digital evolved and interfaces, what they captured started to be in digital, this is where some of that louder and clearer didn't always equate to better.
Exactly.
I mean, he's not wrong. Like, I've listened to different mastering plugins where the only thing, even with BandLab, I use two of their options when I do my projects, the stems. It's either the universal or the tape mastering option.
Yep.
And the universal is kind of all purpose. It it does make it louder, it does make it clearer. But what I found with the way I do my effects and my bus mixing, I usually have everything where I want it to be in my mix. When I run it through the universal, it actually pushes some of my effects a little over the top, and it pushes the volume, because I tend to go just above, keep a little headroom, so that way when it does boost it, you're low enough so that the boost doesn't clip.
Yep.
Universal sometimes is just a little more than I want, but the tape option I've been really finding to be my best adjuster from what I hear here and what I put up there. It kind of tames things, and I've learned to compensate on my final mix for that.
Exactly. To figure out what it's going to sound like after that. You're anticipating that change in the same way that, we were talking about when you do recordings of things, nice clean guitar when you're recording it, but you're going to be putting effects on it later. So you're playing it with the dynamics that you want to interact with the effect later, even if you're not hearing it right now. Same kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And you adjust your effects to get that sweet spot in your sound and your mix with your headphones here, and then you put it up onto that platform. And if you do use any of these boosters and mastering options, what you had perfected might not be where it was when you sent it. So
yeah,
you really have to experiment with your target platforms a little bit before you can get the perfect mix for that platform's mastering option.
Exactly. Knowing how, like you said before, knowing how you have to compensate your mix beforehand so that you know that it'll come out like this after the mastering hits it.
Yeah, it took me about 6-7 months putting BandLab projects up before I finally got that compensation sweet spot for what happens when it does hit the lab.
Yep. Exactly. And you had a lot of experience because you put up a lot of tracks.
Well, that's the cool thing about doing like all sorts of different genres, and like your hip hop master's not going to sound the same as the rock one, and metal is a whole nother beast.
Metal mixing is a whole nother beast for sure.
Yep. So that was at Progressions, POD, Progressions Podcast. Awesome advice. Another killer freshie that, like, he looks like he talks about industry information, music engineering, production, like a channel after my own heart.
Oh yeah, all the good stuff. All the good stuff.
Yeah, thank you for that insight into mastering, where it was, where it's been, and where it's going.
Absolutely. And why? Why master?
Yeah. Yeah. We had a full night.
Yeah. Full plate. There we go.
Yeah, we made it till midnight.
Wow. And a little after. Oh, pumpkin time.
Cinderella.
Yeah. Join us again tomorrow. We got probably DJ Tatius, right? Tomorrow night.
Yep. Tatius is coming in, and we're going to be taking a second look at Da Vinci. He came in on Monday. Awesome show. Showed off some of his work. And for those who missed it, that'll be following right after Tatius.
Excellent. And other than that, we'll catch you next time on Talking Shh IT with Glenn and Tony.
We'll
Thanks,
see you
everybody.
next week.
See you next week. Ambient noise, yeah.
So now you're grabbing some BandLab clips.
Now for me, that would also be something where I would use like volume automation and like bring that from the bottom, like bring it in and then bring it back out.
And these are the kinds of sounds you can scratch. With this AI, like scratching it actually can be cool.
Oh, that was perfect for the interlude too.
Ends it right in the right
I
spot.
didn't even notice 40. I didn't even realize the texture faded out at the interlude until it happened. I'm like, wait a minute.
Sometimes you just, it was just meant to be that way.